All right, tonight is the night. We are going to find out, after a year of debating it, whether Josh Allen is going to be named the NFL's MVP. The NFL Honors Award Show is tonight, 9 o'clock. Snoop Dogg is the host. Of course, MVP, only one of the things that will be awarded tonight. Allen and Jackson, odds-wise, are pretty close together if you care about the betting odds on it. So we'll find out tonight about Allen winning MVP. Other Bills that are up for awards tonight, Joe Brady is up for Assistant Coach of the Year. Also, Damar Hamlin is up for Comeback Player of the Year, among others. Elsewhere around the NFL, we're getting some injury reports now ahead of the Super Bowl on Sunday. On the Eagles side of things, defensive end Brandon Graham limited in Wednesday's practice, which is a good sign for him to return against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Dallas Goedert practiced in full, so no concern about the Eagles tight end. And they had a couple of injuries at center. Cam Jurgens was back at practice in full, so again, all good news on the Eagles front. The Chiefs have no injuries really to speak of going into the weekend. The NFL Players Association Executive Director Lloyd Howell says yesterday that nobody wants to play an 18th game, came out very strongly on the players' behalf against an 18th game, which has been speculated upon happening sometime soon. Sabres were back on the ice at practice yesterday. They don't play until Saturday, but a bunch of injury updates. Tage Thompson skated on his own, not with the team. Lindy Ruff said he and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen have a chance to play on Saturday. Dylan Cousins was not on the ice, and we didn't know why for a little bit, but ended up being a lower body injury, and they're monitoring his status for Saturday as well. And finally, NBA trade deadline is today, and we're already getting massive deals. Had the Luka trade earlier in the week. Last night, Jimmy Butler traded from the Miami Heat to the Golden State Warriors. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock. All right, golf season's officially back. Right? Today, golf season's officially back. Me and Josh both golfed yesterday, and we didn't know that we were going to be golfing next to each other yesterday.
You scared me in my backswing. I saw your hat out of the corner of my eye. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bays next to each other, too.
Yeah. That was completely coincidental.
One of the bigger coincidences that I've had in a while. We're going to the Dome. Like, okay, let's go golf. And we're going to play on the simulator there. So, all right. Buddy texts me, Bay 3. All right, so I walk down to Bay 3. There sitting in Bay 4 is Josh. How many bays are there?
Like 35.
On each level,
yeah,
right?
Right.
1 in 70 chance. All right, good. What's 1 in 70? What can I plan on happening now? Are the Sabres odds to make the playoffs 1 in 70?
Might be a little more than that.
They might be worse than that.
Yeah.
If they're 1.4%, actually, That might line up if they are even still 1.4%, which is what they were, a couple of days ago. The odds, according to Money Puck, for the Sabres to make the play, 1.4%. I think it's about the same. There we go. Let's plan on it.
It's happened before. We've seen something else happen like that.
Yeah. If you missed us with Lindy Ruff yesterday, I would definitely recommend checking it out. He was very good on what happened Sunday and the fallout between the Sabres players, the coaches, the fans, the people that are covering the league nationally. A lot of good stuff from Lindy yesterday. Morning, it's Jeremy and Joe. 803-0550 is the phone number. There is a lot to get to today. It is very wintry out, wintry mix, so slow drive into work. Great day for the automatic car starter because it's one of those where the windows are not covered in snow, but they might be covered in a very thin layer of ice all the way around. And I feel bad. You have to do it. And neighbors would understand because you're on your way to work, before 6 o'clock in the morning. But when you got that thin layer of ice, I think there is a way, I've looked it up, or someone's even called in or texted this in, that, is it like, can you do hot water? Or maybe it's cold water. Hot water might break the glass. You can melt that thin layer of ice without having to take your brush and scrape and scrape and scrape, because the scraping is loud.
There is a trick,
I'm in these like North
scraper.
Buffalo houses where like you're cut right up on top of each other, and I'm doing like everyone 3 houses down are still hearing this.
There's a trick though with the scraper. So you know how like there's 2 sides of it. There's the
There's the little end, right?
You flip it over, and then there's the 4 prongs that you kind of rub across it, and it makes cracks into the ice.
Okay,
and it breaks it up, and it makes it easier to remove when you flip it to the regular side.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a way to like break up the ice on your windshield. I don't know if it's quieter by any means, but like
right. That's
quicker,
what I'm going for.
So.
Quicker means quieter in. Oh, here. It's. Do I want to try to connect dots at 6:07 in the morning like this? The totality of noise would actually be lower because I'm not spending as much time with that same noise level. You understand?
Right, but it might be
where I'm looking here.
But it might actually be louder to use the other side of it.
Okay, right.
So I don't. Right, it might cancel each other out.
I'll try it next time, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I guess where I really want to start this morning. So Myles Garrett's just doing interviews now. He's just on Radio Row. Very convenient. Good for him. I mean, his agent probably I thought would be doing a good job by telling him like you should go down to New Orleans. And you should go on every show that will have you. And because you are the story of the league right now, every show will have you. And you can craft your message the way you want it. You can not come off like the bad guy. The Browns might try to paint you as such, so you get out in front of that. And there was Myles Garrett on the Rich Eisen show. I think he did maybe one other show at least. But he did a long sit-down with the Rich Eisen show. And, like, man, he's getting out of Cleveland. There's no doubt in my mind he is getting out of Cleveland. We had a guest on earlier in the week from Cleveland on this situation. Like, the Browns don't have to trade him. You got a contract. 2 years left on your deal. And I am very pro-player in these situations. Very pro-player. I mean, in the NBA, Kevin Durant made a comment that is completely true, I think, across all of sports, that you as the player are expected to be loyal to the team and loyal to your contract, and the team is never held to the same standard. Never. He was talking about the Luka trade. Luka, and he is, you can believe him if you want. I have no reason to not believe him. Luka has said repeatedly since he got traded that he was ready to sign that Supermax extension that they have in the NBA with the Dallas Mavericks. Like, he was ready to do it. He was ready to commit to being a Maverick for the rest of his playing career. And they traded him. And had it been flipped the other way, and he demanded out of Dallas, he would be painted as traitor, villain, right? I guess the Mavericks are being painted that way a little bit by their own fans, the GM. But you know what I mean. I want to be on the player end of things a lot because the team doesn't get held to the same standard as the player does. So here's Myles Garrett, and I think he's completely within the right for wanting out. He's 29 years old. He is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. By the way, we're going to find out the Hall of Fame class today as well. Get some Eli Manning takes in along the way. Garrett is an incredible player, and he is at an age where, like, you got to go. You got to do it now. You only get to play once. And if you want to be making the big moments in the biggest of games, how could you possibly believe that's going to happen with the Cleveland Browns coming up soon? Why wouldn't the guy want to go to the Bills or the Commanders or the Eagles or whoever else you're seeing high up on these odds lists. He wants to go make these plays that he normally makes in the AFC Championship game to lead somebody to a Super Bowl. That's it. So I think he's getting out. Long story short, I think he's going to get out of Cleveland. I don't think there's any debate about it. 2 years left in his contract means nothing. The Browns, if they wanted to, if he was a diminished player, they'd move on from him in a heartbeat. You know? Play out your contract. All right. Team, let him play out his contract. Why doesn't it have to work the other way? So in this situation, Garrett's getting out. Does anyone want to make the argument against the Bills doing it? Does anybody even want to make a case why the Bills shouldn't do this? It is sometimes when an idea is completely unanimous, I do want to take a step back and look at it and say, okay, can it be this easy? It has to be this good of an idea. It has to be an automatic yes. And I did that with Myles Garrett here. I read Kevin Cole, who had a good breakdown comparing Garrett to other elite pass rushers when they turned 30 and what the decline looked like and how, even Von Miller went from like the best defensive end in the league to he was really, really good, but he wasn't the best anymore. He wasn't Defensive Player of the Year anymore. And he maintained that level really until he was 34 years old and he tore his knee against the Lions for the Bills. And then, then it went away. Although even this year, as we've pointed out, Von was top 10 in the league in pass rush win rate. Like, he kind of bounced back this year better than I thought he would. Didn't put up big sack numbers. So, all right. And Aaron Donald, who I know plays defensive tackle and defensive end when he was in the league, more so defensive tackle, he maintained that level into his 30s a little bit better, but still wasn't the 20.5 sack guy that he was in his mid-20s, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of examples of, all right, small step back early in your 30s, big step back maybe in your mid-30s. And a lot of guys can stay at like a level of, hey, part-time defensive end, I'm a one-trick pony, I play on third and longs, and I'm just a pass rush specialist. Some of those guys do it late into their careers. James Harrison played in the NFL until he was in his 40s. Dwight Freeney, anyone remember him on any of these teams? Dwight Freeney went, after he turned 34, Chargers, Cardinals, Falcons, Seahawks, Lions. Does anybody remember him on any of those teams? But, hey, he played till 37. Right? He played. He was around a lot. Was not, all-pro Dwight Freeney at the end, but still played and had an 8-sack year down there at the end. Terrell Suggs, he played till 37. At 37, he had 6.5 sacks. At 36, he had 7 sacks. At 35, he had 11 sacks. Again, not what Terrell Suggs was when he was a first-team All-Pro, but pretty productive. So, when I look at Garrett, I guess why there isn't really, to me, a great argument against it is where the Bills are coming from at the position and what you would expect him to be even if there is a decline. Like Garrett, if he's the best defensive end in the league right now, which I think is debatable between him and TJ Watt, but I think you could say it's Garrett. If he's the best in the league right now, how long do I need him to be that to make the trade worth it? Do I need what? Do I need 1 year of that to make it worth it? 2 years of that? It depends how much you win, right? If you only get 1 year of it and the Bills win the Super Bowl, then of course it was worth it. If you get 1 year of it and they make the Super Bowl, then it's probably still worth it. If you get, to me it's more though about, for this conversation, what do I expect to get out of him after, if he's another year further as a 15-sack guy and he's an AP first-team All-Pro and he's Defensive Player of the Year consideration again, then what do I expect him to become after that? And I just don't think it's going to be bad. Injuries can happen, but injuries can happen to anybody. I think it would almost be unprecedented if you look around at the other players of his caliber at the position over the decades, because you can't really find a lot of comparisons. Like, we're working from a small sample size. There have not been that many defensive ends as good as Myles Garrett. What do they all have in common? They all are pretty good still, in their 30s, if not still great, and they oftentimes play into their late 30s, and as I mentioned, sometimes they even make it to 40. I think Julius Peppers is another one, by the way, that made it to 40. Peppers playing with, like, the Bears at the end of his career. Yeah, Peppers played, to 38. But even look at that one. Julius Peppers, all right. Not a bad comparison, right, to Garrett. Garrett actually, if you compare their 20s, Garrett had more sacks. Garrett had more All-Pro accolades. Garrett had more Defensive Player of the Year awards. Garrett had more of everything. Julius Peppers is a Hall of Famer and one of the best, that I grew up watching. He was on the All-2000s team that the Hall of Fame did and the All-2010s team. Like, he's an all-time great pass rusher, Julius Peppers. And what did he do in his 30s? Had you signed him to a contract at 29 years old, how would that have gone? All right, his age 30 season, first team All-Pro. Pretty good. 31, 11 sacks. 32, 11 and a half sacks. Right? 33 and 34, 7 each. Okay, now you might be thinking to yourself, all right, here's the decline that you see sometimes. Oh, wait, no, he bounced back with 10 and a half. Interesting. He gets 11 sacks then after that at 37 years old. I'm not banking on that, but because injuries can happen, and this Peppers example is not everybody, but I would not just assume you're not going to like the end of the Myles Garrett contract if you pay him a monster contract. That's the benefit of getting somebody that is, one, this good, and two, at his age. He's not Von. He's 5 years younger than what Von was when the Bills signed him. So, like, the best I've heard for why you shouldn't do it, which is related to his age and what the end of the contract might look like, I'm just not assuming for sure, and I want to say even betting, that he's not still going to be an impact player at the end of a long-term massive contract that you would be giving him. And that's not even why I'm doing it. Right? I'm doing it for the next couple of years to try to win a Super Bowl right now because of what he is right now. Like if they had to give up Greg Rousseau in a deal for Myles Garrett right now. Cleveland wants him, and it's $20 to $25 million a year for him. And the Bills, if they're going to pay Garrett $30 to $35 million, they're not going to also want to pay Rousseau, and so on and so forth. If you were to trade Rousseau, like what you're losing, you would think is, well, I've got more longevity with this guy. I've got more term, assuming this guy is going to continue to be good. Like I got 5-6 years of Greg Rousseau. Who's to say? This is kind of why I like the idea of a star player coming to the Bills right now. Because, again, if the one argument against getting Garrett, or maybe the top argument against him is his age and what the end of a contract would look like, is a declined Myles Garrett as good as Greg Rousseau? It's very possible. If he goes from the best pass rusher in the world, best edge rusher, to the 5th best, to the 10th best, and now at 34 years old, he's the 15th best, 20th best. Aren't I kind of right where I started? There's money stuff there too, but I don't think it holds up I don't think it's kind of flimsy. It's assuming a lot. Thank you. Someone on Twitter just pointed out Bruce Smith was 40. How'd I miss that one? Bruce Smith was 40 when he retired. And what was he at the end of his career? Again, like, I hate to go back to a guy that played in the 80s and then into the early 2000s, but There are just so few guys of Myles Garrett caliber throughout his career. Yeah, Bruce had 9 sacks in Washington when he was 39 years old. You know? This is a position where guys can last a long time. Von, it just didn't really happen because of the injury. And he did bounce back. So that's one big argument against it that I'm not on board with as a real, threat. It's one I'd be happy to bet against. And then the other one is just what it costs draft capital-wise. And I don't know. We're heading into draft season here. And we got to remind ourselves or reset on what we all think these picks are actually worth. And what they're actually worth when you're picking where the Bills do, which is at the end of the first round, this year, 30th. What is that pick actually worth? And it's not worth nothing. But, yeah, we did this earlier in the week. If you look at the trade value charts, what do 2 picks that are 30th overall in the first round equate to in the draft? And they add up to, a pick in the teens. If you look at one trade value chart where 30 is worth 620 points on this draft value chart, so double that, 1,240. It's worth the 11th pick. We've had this conversation over the years. Last year was about trading up, right? Trading up to get Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors, one of those big top 3 rookie receivers last season. We talked a lot about the Bills moving up. And one drawback, and maybe one reason why they couldn't do it, and one reason you maybe heard Brandon Beane on Hard Knocks kind of indicate when he was talking to Joe Shane of the Giants, and there was another GM involved in that conversation, why Beane kind of said he couldn't do it is I don't have it. You're not taking the 30th pick this year and the 30th pick next year so that I can go up in the draft. And even the draft, remember, up there, it's a crapshoot. If they'd done that, I would have been so happy on draft day. It would have been super exciting. They would have gone up, and they would have got Rome Odunze. That would have felt amazing. It would have felt like I'm getting a sure thing, surefire number 1 wide receiver. I think he's better than Keon Coleman, but would we feel good about that today if they had traded all of that to get Rome Odunze? Tough hypothetical. Right, because he kind of had a middling rookie year, but what was the environment? He was on an offense with a rookie quarterback where he was the number 3 option because they had Keenan Allen and DJ Moore in front of him. He had a really bad offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron. So, what would he have done here? Probably would have gone a lot better, if we're being real. And then maybe that changes, this whole hypothetical here. But if they had done that, might not have felt great. We might not feel great right now. They probably would not have a first round pick heading into March. And then, man, how mad would we be? Because if we want Myles Garrett, it's like, oh, I don't have a first round pick this year. Do they want to take 2 seconds instead? And now I'm not picking till round 3. I understand that the top of the draft, to me, is more of a crapshoot even than Myles Garrett is. You're getting the rookie contract. That's a bonus that you don't get with Garrett. But I think trading up is a good debate. And a lot of times I do like it. But it's not perfect and it is risky. I don't see the risk, I guess. I look at this whole thing, the scope of it, what he is as a player, the age, the contract, the price, and I have a hard time seeing the real risk of it. The risk is I'm not going to have now 2 picks in the late 30s, so what? I won't be as flush with depth, and I won't be able to fill my holes as much. But what are their holes? They need 1 corner, and they need 1 depth receiver. I mean, maybe they could do better than that, than a depth receiver, but is that it? They need a lineman. They got like 3 spots on the team that they really need to go address. And the Bills should feel like that another reason, the other reason Bean, I think, should feel freed up to be as aggressive as he wants for a player like this, for a star like this, is your coach and your process and your program and the way you draft to continues to churn out productive players that you didn't invest a lot in. You know? Like, okay, I don't have my first-round pick this year now. I'm basically spending that on Myles Garrett, right? I'm basically giving a first-round pick next year to have the right to use my 30th pick this year on Myles Garrett. That's one way to kind of look at it. The Bills then, okay, you want to say they don't have as many assets to fill holes. Look what they do all the time. They just plug in Christian Benford as a 6th-round rookie and develop him into one of their best defensive players. They just plug in, even on a lesser level, Jamarcus Ingram. Who? Where did he come from? Oh, he's just starting one of these games against the Dolphins and he's got 2 interceptions. Like, oh, okay. Where are they getting Terrell Bernard, 3rd-round pick? Just develop him into a starting caliber linebacker, right? Taylor Rapp, oh, he's just a 1-year, $4 million player. Keep him around. You know, whether it's free agency or it's the end of the draft or it's even these undrafted guys, the Bills have shown an ability to draft and develop players of lesser level talent and mold them into responsible players that don't make a lot of mistakes and you can play in starting roles if you have to. Cam Lewis is another one. And their ability to do that makes me more confident in them going and getting Garrett and having to face a couple of years without a first-round pick. I feel like they'd get by. How different are the players they're getting in the first round versus later in the draft anyway? Rousseau's a pretty good player. Ed Oliver's a pretty good player. Kyrie Elam is not. And I look at the later stages of those drafts and go, okay, yeah, Terrell Bernard's a pretty good player. Khalil Shakir's a pretty good player. Christian Benford's a pretty good player. Spencer Brown is a pretty good player. These are all guys who were drafted after the 3rd round that, to me, like just as good as the guys they picked in the 1st round. 803-0550 is the phone number. Does all this make sense? Anyone want to make any case why the Bills shouldn't do this? Or if you want to make the case for why they should, let us know what you think. And we'll get to some MVP stuff today, too, because we're going to find out tonight. How much do we care? Because I don't think we care as much as we did during the regular season. And that was always predictable. Get to some MVP chatter as well. All ahead. 803-0550 is the phone number. Brian Koziel today as well. We'll talk to him coming up next about the return of golf. The waste management today. That's all ahead here on WGR. Super Bowl week continues. Myles Garrett doing some media yesterday, was on the Rich Eisen show and others, reiterating his desire to be traded to a contender. He opened up about the Commanders and other teams that could be on his list, or what his qualifications would be. The NFL Players Association says they do not want any part of an 18th game, so we'll see how hard the league pushes them for that over the next couple of years, but very clear that the Players Association wants no part of it. To hockey, the Sabres were on the ice yesterday for practice. No Dylan Cousins, which got the Twitter rumors going for a minute, but he just has a lower body injury, and we'll see if he plays on Saturday. Tage Thompson was back on the ice, although he's practicing on his own, and Lindy said that he and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen have a chance to play on Saturday in their last game before a 2-week break. NBA trade deadline is today, and it's off to a chaotic start. You had the Luka trade earlier in the week. Last night, Jimmy Butler traded from the Heat to the Golden State Warriors for a few players and a first-round pick. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Kick off 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Running of the Bulls here to the 16th at the WM Phoenix Open. The countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
Oh! It went in!
It looks like a ticker tape parade.
Sam Ryder taking it right at it. Talk to me. Come on. There's liquid coming down. There's cans going everywhere.
Damn you people, this is golf! Not a rock concert!
It ain't over yet, McGavin. The way I see it, we've only just begun.
You're listening to Jeremy and Joe on Western New York Sports Giant, WGR Sports Radio 550.
The Waste Management Open. I don't know if that's the start of golf season officially, the Waste Management. And people, what do people say, Joe? People say it's the Masters.
Whatever they say, it should now be this.
It should be the Waste Management.
The Players maybe would have got that, right? Because the Players is in March.
Yep. Well,
I'm willing to say it's this.
It's fun, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. The Waste Management Open, and Brian Cozio joining us on the Western Hotline for a bit of a preview on that. And here we go. Good morning, Brian.
Morning, guys. Yeah, I think there's it's right around now, I think, for me. I mean, Pebble Beach last week, that's about the best views we get all year. And then, it goes from literally the quiet, pristine shots of Pebble Beach to this week, as you just played those highlights. And a little Happy Gilmore this week we'll be getting for sure with the crowd on the 16th hole. Yeah. It's amazing every year just playing that highlight that, these people line up at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and then they open the gates and everybody runs out to the 16th hole. It's pretty wild. I mean, it's for golf, obviously, this is as wild as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, if you're outside here today, it's freezing rain, and you turn on the radio, you're like, of course, golf, right, guys? Let's talk golf. I mean, it's pretty nasty outside around here, but, at the Waste Management, it's nice enough weather. Brian, last year, this tournament kind of flew too close to the sun, right? Didn't they kind of decide, okay, maybe the debauchery things got out of hand, and they wanted to scale it back a little bit?
Yes. Last year, they had quite a bit of issues with weather delays. So when you have 400,000 people on all these acres of a golf course sitting there for hours with no golf to watch, you can imagine how it kind of got out of hand. And it was like over 100 arrests last year, and they had to kick people out. And I mean, you see videos over the last few years of people trying to walk from one hole to the next, and if there's any sort of elevation, you can see them tilting because they've had too few many.
Yeah,
it's definitely a different event from any of the others on the PGA Tour. But yeah, last year, I think for the first time, it was viewed in a negative way in some sense by players or from the PGA Tour. Every year it was embraced. It really was. It was like, hey, this is the unique and different event. Players not even minding the fact that guys would make noise, like you see sometimes at the first tee at the Ryder Cup before they would swing. Obviously, the 16th hole is a unique event. I mean, they've essentially turned it into an entire enclosed stadium now. I think they embraced it. I think they said, hey, this is what our tournament's all about. Fans love it. The players, for the most part, seem to embrace it as well. But last year, it definitely got a little bit out of hand, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was so much downtime with no golf to watch, and people obviously just had too many and started doing things that maybe they thought crossed the line.
Yeah, the whole thing strikes me, guys, as maybe a golf's canary in the coal mine about how fans want more access and want a little bit looser atmosphere. Like, as you described that, Brian, I'm thinking about TGL and how that has been embraced because we get to see a little more personality, and the Ryder Cup is where you see guys celebrate as a team. And this is just still an individual event, but the loosening up of the hoity-toity kind of golf atmosphere is present here.
For sure. And I still think they want it to be that way. And I think in general, even players over the last month or so, as the PGA Tour still tries to figure out kind of how they want to fit here in the golf landscape with the emergence we know of LIV that we've been talking about for the last few years, TGL now, which obviously has a lane in golf that even was on last night on ESPN, or I'm sorry, on Tuesday night on ESPN. So they're trying to fit in there. Justin Thomas said, look, we've got to give more access. We've got to be more open. I think the tour players know that right now, like YouTube golf's very popular. Some of the things Bryson DeChambeau is doing. TGL has a crowd and a following. They've got to figure out a way to give more access and get crowds involved. I mean, there comes a point where obviously, like, you don't want to literally have players being able to physically, like, touch players in the middle of their swing and impact competition. Right. I mean, the best thing about spectating a golf event, and you guys know because you've been to some, like, is that you literally are on the field. Like, you don't get to be on the ice watching the Sabres. You don't get to be, on the field when the Bills are playing. But, like, for golf, you literally get to be on the field, and that's what makes it unique. Now, in some sense, spectating golf is tough because you don't get to see the entire tournament like you do in another sport. If you're sitting up high in the stands, you get to see it all. So, there's pros and cons of spectating golf, but one of the great things is that you literally can be within arm's length. And for the most part, they trust fans to handle that properly, behave well, and, at almost all events, understand that, look, even though there might be 10,000 people standing at this hole when the guy's about to bring his putter back, for the most part, I think fans behave very well. The fact, like, it's usually always silent. So in that sense, I want to give fans credit because I think they handle it well over the course of years and years of golf. This event, a little bit different. They embrace it. They want the crowd to get into it. And at times, obviously, maybe it's gone a little bit too far with people being ejected and people maybe, saying things to players that maybe have crossed the line. To me, if it's not physical and they're not saying anything that's like threatening or demeaning in some sense, it's probably all in good fun. But I'm sure I could see where people have definitely pushed it too far that they had to start ejecting people from the tournament.
Yeah. Brian Koziel with us. The field this week, Brian, no Rory, no Xander Schauffele. Is the rest of the field pretty good?
I would say it's okay. It's not an elevated event as it was last year. The tour, because they know the impact of labeling it an elevated event and, of course, increasing the purse size, they know that it's going to bring out the better field. So they've done each year, they've kind of rotated a couple in and out. This year, Pebble Beach last week was an elevated event. It wasn't previously, and the Waste Management was. So they flip-flopped those two this year. So last week at Pebble Beach, you did get, in terms of the major stars, a better field. I mean, there are some star power. You mentioned Scheffler. Of course, anytime he tees it up, it's going to be, something that people are going to want to watch right now. Jordan Spieth is playing. Justin Thomas is playing. Hideki Matsuyama is playing. The defending champion, Nick Taylor, the Canadian, is playing. So, you've got some names that I think would draw people to watch. To me, even, Tom Kim, Max Homa. So there's enough names, I think, that people will find it interesting. But it's the 16th hole. That's going to be what they're going to put the TV on. It's kind of like at Sawgrass. Everybody at some point wants to watch shots and watch some golf from the island green. I think for me, especially this year, we know how we have Chiefs fatigue, like watching 6 hours of Super Bowl pregame. Like, to me, this is always my Super Bowl pregame, having it on. And they time it out, and they play it early, even though it's out in Phoenix. That usually, the final round ends at like 5:45, 6 o'clock. Just about a half hour before the Super Bowl starts. So in that sense, I feel like it's a nice spot to watch on a Sunday, especially before the game starts.
We almost had a fight at our house a couple years ago because the winning putt, I think, was going off at the exact same time that the national anthem was. Maybe Rom was involved in that, so maybe it went a little long a couple of years ago. But I'm in agreement. Like that is my Sunday. I don't need to watch 6 people on a table tell me the Chiefs are going to win.
And the coolest thing about the whole thing is, so the 16th hole, Brian, for those who have maybe not seen the tournament or tuned in, it's basically, picture if they built an entire hockey arena around a golf hole. Because what's it? It's like 20,000 people in the stadium around the 16th?
Is it that many?
It used to be something where they increased the bleachers around it so that you'd have people up at the green and then you'd have people back at the tee. But now they've enclosed it all the way around, and there are regular bleachers, there are corporate suites bleachers, but they've essentially turned it into a stadium like Coliseum look to it, and that's kind of what they've called it now. And the Waste Management has even changed their logo and their imaging to all include that 16th where it's framed all the way around. Thousands and thousands of spectators. The hole they usually can play it somewhere where guys are hitting like a pitching wedge, like 140 some yards. They can extend it all the way to like 180 something. They've got a whole bunch of different sets of tees. I saw yesterday, they actually had a robot out there hitting shots yesterday just to try it out, and then the robot made a hole in one yesterday. So
I feel like I'd be excited to watch that, and maybe I'm a sucker, but even if it's a robot, I would think that's cool.
Yeah.
I saw Ryan Fitzpatrick also.
Where you'll see guys. Sometimes they'll put a jersey on, or they'll put a different hat on. Sometimes they'll throw stuff into the crowd. I know that's been something that's been very popular too. Where they'll maybe even just throw something simple like golf gloves into the crowd, or golf balls, or things like that. So that's the whole. If you're not a super golf fan, you don't watch golf every week, but you're looking for something to watch for the Super Bowl, tune in and just watch 16. It's definitely a different scene like any other in golf for sure.
Very good. Brian, what's the tee to green schedule? You guys are, walking through the freezing rain, but you got to be getting close to season, right?
Yeah, we're less than a month away. We're starting to get all of our show organized. Kevin Sylvester, who last week was doing PGA Tour live coverage on ESPN Plus for Pebble Beach, he's back with us. PGA Pro Jeff Meadis, of course, the best teacher in Western New York. Jeff Blank will be doing all of our social media and all his weekly bets. So if you're into wagering on golf, you can follow him. But, we're going to be back for shows March 1st all the way through Bill season. So we're 4 Saturdays away from coming back. Saturday mornings, our normal time slot, 7 to 8. And we'll be going to courses and golf facilities all across Western New York. So I hope people can tune in. Yeah, March 1st is our first show.
Very good. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Brian Koziel, Tee to Green of Tee to Green on the start of the Waste Management Open. We had Golf League last night, Joe, and we played St. Andrews.
Nice. Yeah. You can't hit it into trees at St.
Andrews. No, you can hit it out of bounds though. And granted, it's the simulator, but standing on the 17th where you're hitting over that one building and trying to fade it over there, it's it feels like you're hitting a hotel room, even though it's a simulator. But it's cool.
We all golfed yesterday. Then
we did.
I showed up for Bay 3, and who was sitting there at Bay 4 next to us? There's Josh.
Nice, very nice.
So we all golfed.
Well, you wouldn't golf today.
February 5th.
You like to golf when it's windy.
Yeah.
Today would be tough. It is nasty outside. Freezing rain. It is really nasty outside.
What would you shoot today?
So, all right, 803-0550 on latest on Myles Garrett. We got Garrett talking about it. We got Deion Dawkins talking about it. Seems like a lot of the talk in New Orleans is not only that Garrett, of course, is a big price or a big prize, but I saw Pete Prisco. The Bills have to make it happen. The Bills are going to be a team everybody's thinking is in on this. So we'll keep monitoring that and play a sound as it comes along, like Deion Dawkins saying, "Come join us." Jeremy and Joe, 803-0550, our phone number on WGR.
Hey, it's Sneaky Joe DiBiase here for the Roswell Park Donor Center. the Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center needs your help. Cancer patients, they often are requiring blood or platelet transfusions during their treatment. And when you donate at the Roswell Park Donor Center, you can directly impact the lives of individuals that are battling this disease. We're a pro-Buffalo community, so when you donate, the blood stays right at Roswell Park. The process is straightforward and simple. The friendly and experienced team, they'll guide you through every step of the way, ensuring you're comfortable, and will be with you throughout your donation. We are, always needing blood or platelets, especially platelets. If you are looking to make a donation, platelets are definitely needed. To learn more about donating and to schedule your appointment, you can search Roswell Park Donor Center or visit roswellpark.org. Again, it's very simple. You park in the ramp, the door's right there in on the right. There's big comfy chairs. They're going to make you as comfortable as possible. It's just really going to take you a little bit of your time. Together, let's make this year one of hope and healing for those in need by donating blood or platelets at the Roswell Park Donor Center.
Jeremy and Joe, on a freezing rain Thursday. The kind of rain where I went outside and the railing on like the stairs is covered in ice.
Yeah.
So you are going to be scraping. Your doors might be frozen shut. I mean,
that happened to me.
It's rough out there.
Your windows, make sure you get the car starter going.
Are we in a scenario where you hit the button to roll the window down and the ice stays there? And
yes.
You punch through it?
100%.
That is always kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
You can pretend you're punching through a window.
I've also learned that you have to be careful about what window washer fluid to put in your car.
Okay.
Because apparently that can freeze. Currently dealing with that.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. Jeremy and Joe, some Miles Garrett chatter when we get back. I got a text from a listener, Charlie, about, like, is Garrett just the sexy answer or is it really the best answer? So Garrett spoke about that at the Super Bowl. Deion Dawkins on that. Daniel Jeremiah says he's got 4 prime years left. Jeremy and Joe, plenty of your phone calls if you want to join us here on WGR. Jeremy White here for Atwell Eye Care. They're online at atwelleye.com. If you're having trouble reading the play-by-play or driving in bright light or a day-night, if your vision's suffering from cataracts, it's a natural part of aging. But don't worry, Atwell Eye Care has you covered with customized cataract surgery options that fit your lifestyle. It's your chance to get the answers you need. So register now for Atwell Eye Care's free, no-pressure, no-obligation Lunch and Learn Friday. That's tomorrow at Iliota Apollo's restaurant at 12 noon. So go to atwelleye.com, grab your spot, register, and you're having lunch on a Friday. So Friday at noon, that's tomorrow, at noon, at Iliota Apollo's, you can meet Dr. A.J. Gerongal and ask all your questions, find out how cataract surgery can help you see the 716 more clearly. So stop procrastinating. Register now at atwelleye.com for tomorrow's 12 noon Lunch and Learn at Iliota Apollo's and enjoy free lunch as you learn about your options for cataract procedures. Register at atwelleye.com and get ready to fall in love with the way you see the world. Atwell Eye Care, the official eye care provider of the Buffalo Bills and the only eye care I trust for my family.
After all the MVP debate throughout the year, we find out tonight, 9 o'clock is the NFL Honors Awards, and we will know who is unveiled as the MVP, whether it is Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Saquon Barkley is also a finalist, but expected to be Allen or Jackson. That is tonight at 9. There are other bills up for awards, including Joe Brady for Assistant Coach of the Year and also Damar Hamlin for Comeback Player of the Year. That all gets unveiled tonight, as does the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. Eli Manning, the biggest name to watch for tonight if he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Elsewhere around the NFL, you got injury reports yesterday from both teams. The Chiefs aren't dealing with any injury, so it's all about the Eagles. And good news for them, Cam Jurgens, the center that had been dealing with a back injury, did practice on Wednesday, so he looks good to go for Sunday, as does defensive end Brandon Graham, who was limited at practice. He tore his triceps in Week 12, and the expectation is that he should be able to make it back for the Super Bowl. Sabres on the ice yesterday for practice. No Dylan Cousins. He's dealing with a lower body injury. No Matthias Samuelsson either. Tage Thompson skated on his own. Lindy says he has a chance to play on Saturday, their final game before a 2-week break in Nashville. And the NBA trade deadline is today at 3 o'clock. We've already had a lot of action. Luka traded earlier in the week. Yesterday, the report was that the Suns were about to trade Kevin Durant back to the Golden State Warriors, but that Durant nixed the idea because he has no interest in reuniting with the Warriors. So the Warriors went out and traded for Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat for 3 players and a first-round pick. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
I mean, there are definitely contenders on the AFC side and NFC side. I'm not glued to anyone at the certain moment. Like I said, I just want to be in a position to play in those big games and win big games and feel like I can make a meaningful impact and elevate a team and take them over the top.
Myles Garrett with Rich Eisen. You wonder about the Jurassic Park theme? Are you wondering?
I am wondering. I was wondering, are we calling Myles Garrett a dinosaur, like in a mean way or negative way?
No.
Because dinosaur doesn't necessarily mean a good anymore.
No, it doesn't. It usually means you're old and busted. Somebody is where, listen, the YouTube chat, sometimes it offers us some good things. Somebody referred to Garrett as Dinosaur Dolls Garrett, and I didn't know why that happened.
Garrett? Okay.
So I looked into dinosaurs and Myles Garrett, and turns out a well-known thing about him is he likes dinosaurs.
Really?
If you search Myles Garrett and dinosaurs, you'll find everything from him wearing a suit with dinosaurs on it to he had a cake for his birthday that was a dinosaur.
Huh.
And he started loving dinosaurs after seeing Jurassic Park. So, Joe, if we're gonna fall in love with this player, we gotta roll out the red carpet with dinosaurs on it.
Okay. Show him is Penn Dixie where you get all the fossils locally.
Yeah.
Build him a giant house made of totally dinosaur themed. Like, hey, if you come here, this is where you live.
Yes, a dinosaur-themed house. We'll change our name to the Buffalo Dinosaurs for 1 year.
Would you
1 year?
For 1 year, would you be the Buffalo Dinos if you could just have Myles Garrett
and win the Super Bowl? Yeah.
We need more teams. No teams are named after dinosaurs, right? Or just not dinosaurs. The word itself.
You got the Raptors.
The Raptors. More dinosaur team names.
Yeah,
I'd be into that. The Buffalo Triceratops. That's bad?
I mean, it's lengthy, but you can go with it.
Utah, come on.
Utah could have gone for some sort of dinosaur-themed name.
The Utah Pterodactyls.
And then we would call them the Tears, and you would say nobody says that, like the Sabes.
I'm telling you, nobody did it before you started this 2 years ago.
Somebody sent me a link of
or maybe someone.
A Sports Center highlight from the 90s where the guy at the desk called them the Sabes. Anyway, good morning, everybody. It's icy out there. It's really icy and really slick. So it's almost if you don't have to go anywhere, don't. it's really nasty out there, and freezing rain falling, 26 degrees, and there was expected to be a couple hours of freezing rain, so we could see some consequences of that. So anyway, Joe, on Myles Garrett, I think you got to give credit to Brandon Beane on something, or there's a thing about Beane where his job might be different than most GMs. Does any other GM, and maybe, we are so close to the Bills, so the answer to this might be no. Here's Dawkins saying, come join us. The Bills players openly pursued Odell Beckham and DeAndre Hopkins, and, again and again, we are consistently in a spot where it's this team just like players asking the GM to get to work.
Yeah. I think maybe we hear it from Philadelphia players a little bit because you've got Howie Roseman that makes a lot of deals like this. Maybe it's more about, are you comfortable with your general manager to do that? And Beane is he's kind of close to the players, maybe more than some GMs. I don't really know. Like, Allen talks about that. Like, they golf a lot. I don't know about the other guys, like where Dawkins would fall into that. But, yeah, maybe it is that we're close. I saw Cam Jordan yesterday. Is he on the Saints still? Talking about trying to will Garrett to the Saints. I want to make sure Jordan's even on the Saints still. He is. So, you have your individuals around the league, and you see it on social media, but I don't know that the Bills aren't doing this more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, Diggs was doing it with Vaughn even while he was still here, wasn't he? Like, he was on podcasts, and he was, or maybe that was more like Vaughn said after the fact that him and Diggs had kind of talked a lot before it happened. So maybe that was more of a behind-the-scenes thing with Diggs.
Before Vaughn signed?
Before Vaughn signed.
Well, that is one of the things here. Like, if you think about what Garrett said, he wants to go to a place. He did say to get a team over the top, which, that might just be a general statement, but that sounds like that doesn't mean the Chiefs, right? Like, the Chiefs have been over the top quite a bit. Right. So he doesn't want to necessarily ride coattails to a championship, which I wouldn't have any problem with if he wanted that anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with Vaughn and with Diggs and with Dawkins now doing this, and Allen hosted Beckham to his house. One thing you hear about the Bills, and this is something that can work in their favor for recruiting other players, and if Myles Garrett's trying to figure out where he wants to go, the refrain I hear from players is that they let you be yourself. So, when Garrett calls Dawkins or calls Vaughn to talk about what's it like there, they can give a glowing review of how they do like it. And while Garrett doesn't have a no-trade clause, he does have some leverage. He's on with Rich Eisen at Radio Row, and he says he does not have he can't pick where he goes, but he'd like to have some feedback. And you might say, well, if you're the Browns, why would you let him decide? We'll get whatever we can for you. And the answer to that is obvious. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious. Wouldn't a team that's going to extend him offer more than a team that's going to rent him for 2 years?
I think that's almost definitely true.
Yeah. So if the Browns are fielding offers, and let's say the Titans, who are the first overall pick, are like, we'll give you the first pick for him, and he says, I'm not going to extend there. Well, then the Titans are not going to give you that.
Right.
Whereas a team, all right, Miles, which teams would you extend with? If you have a quarterback in place, let's just make it about Josh and Lamar. Those are two MVP caliber quarterbacks. We're going to find out who wins the MVP tonight. And Myles Garrett would have, I would think, confidence. I'm going to be a Super Bowl contender for multiple seasons, and I would have no problem extending with that team. So that kind of brings the price down a little bit, I think, for the Bills, because not everybody will be involved. We say 31 teams. He won't extend with 31 teams.
Right, 31 teams will call, but that doesn't mean the 31 teams are going to be in it when the bids are really coming in.
Right, think of like the Sabres.
Bids.
This is a little bit, not exactly the same, but the Sabres trade Reinhart. The team that's acquiring him is going to want to know, like, would you be willing to sign?
Right.
So he's a 2-year rental as opposed to like just a 1 year or an RFA. But that's one way that Garrett can exact some leverage. And if you're a Bills fan that thinks, well, we might not have the assets of these other teams, he could kind of list his group of teams to 6 and say, these are the ones I feel confident enough going with for like a 5 to 6 year run to try to win a Super Bowl right now.
And I bet that's what's going to end up happening. I bet it's going to be 5-6 teams at the end that are making real offers that he's willing to extend with and do a deal with, and then that's it. Like, but the idea that, you see just through social media, like, especially, it's February. What does everybody want to do right now that covers their team? I want to write about Myles Garrett and whether they could get their hands on him, whether they could trade for him. Again, like I mentioned, Cam Jordan of the Saints is on the Kay Adams show yesterday talking about recruiting Myles Garrett. Like, okay, dude, like even you're not a blogger. You're not covering the team. You're on the team. But you have your fun for now with Myles Garrett, and I'll not think about you for a second when we're really getting close to who he's going to get traded to, because the New Orleans Saints, that's who he's going to go to. He wants to win a Super Bowl. He's going to go play there with that situation. And do they even have the money? Don't they have the worst cap situation like every single year? Yeah. And you've got Patriots people writing about New England getting him and whatnot. Like, I don't know. I'd expect within a couple of weeks, we kind of know who's in it, like who's in it and who isn't in it, and who's serious about making an offer. And maybe like, listen, New England was one of these teams that when Brandon Ayuk was available, and actually this has been them with a couple of receivers, but I remember this with Ayuk, that they were willing to make the offer, right? Like they were willing to meet the price. But the player was like, I don't know if I really want to sign an extension there. So what does a team like New England do then? Oh, sorry, Niners. Like we're not giving you the first round pick and a second round pick or whatever the price would have been, because he's telling us like this might be it. He's going to play 1 year for us. So if Garrett starts telling teams that, or they get wind of that through his agent, then like, all right, New England maybe would have been interested, but no, not anymore. Like I expect 5-6 teams to be what it is within a pretty short amount of time, and I think we're going to know who it's going to be.
We might run the risk, as people that talk about the Bills, of being a little snobbish in who else can compete on the level that the Bills can.
Yeah,
I think it's the short list is Buffalo, Baltimore. I don't want to include Cincinnati because they have issues paying players, and I don't know if they would pay Myles Garrett.
So and they're in division like Baltimore. Like if you think that's a hang-up,
right?
Like, or at least. Like that's kind of where same thing. Like I don't want to just assume the Bills are the team that makes the most sense because we're talking about them, but don't they make the most sense?
They probably make the most sense. We got a clip of Daniel Jeremiah talking about this potential, and he's answering questions from people in Seattle. Like, did the Seahawks make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Are they a Super Bowl contender? Geno Smith is a nice player.
Yeah,
he's had a nice career resurgence. But is that a team? If they're in the NFC, does that make it more likely? I don't know. It's obviously all up to the opinion of Myles Garrett. But man, the Bills check every box, and I don't think the only box the Bills don't check is if the Browns in fact do want to trade him to the NFC. That's the only hang up you'd have. I see Philadelphia mentioned a lot, and that makes a lot of sense. Sure, like if the Eagles wanted him, they could probably make that happen. But
the Commanders are the other team, and he got asked specifically about the Commanders yesterday from Rich Eisen, and he confirmed like that's one of the teams.
Okay,
it was the only team I think he got asked about specifically. So maybe if he'd been asked about the Bills, he probably says the same thing, doesn't he? Like, oh yeah, that's one of the teams that would be on my list.
Yep.
But he did confirm like Washington would be it. Maybe stepping back from it, maybe I'd put the Bills second.
Behind Washington.
Because, like, I think the Bills make more sense than Baltimore, more sense than Cincinnati, because they don't have the financial thing that Cincinnati has. They don't have the, I'm in your division, do you want to trade me to the Ravens thing that Baltimore has. But what does Washington have that the Bills don't? If we really want to look at it objectively, they have, one, a quarterback on a rookie contract. So it would be easier for them. I'm not saying the Bills can't do it. I think they very much can. But it would be easier for Washington to go all out because they know this fits in our cap picture perfectly fine. And two, it's the AFC-NFC thing. Like if they have the same offer, and it could be close, right? Because doesn't Washington only pick like one spot ahead of the Bills?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be true?
Yes.
So, okay, the pick's basically the same. And if it's the same offer or close to it, does Cleveland just go, all right, tied to the NFC team? Tie goes to the NFC team.
Possibly. And on Washington being a potential team there, listen, I love Jaden Daniels, and he looked incredible, and he's one of the best young quarterbacks to come along. I'm not trying to like issue a cautionary tale, but this time last year we thought C.J. Stroud was it, right?
Yep.
And C.J. Stroud had a year that makes it look like maybe not so fast. So if you're Garrett, he's talking about how he's getting older and his window is closing. And if he wants to win a Super Bowl, again, he doesn't get to pick exactly where he goes. It's going to come down to the package, the prices paid, and an extension, and a lot of different things. But he probably feels like he has to get this right. Because Washington might be a little more of a gamble than Buffalo. Maybe not. I'm not trying to talk down Daniels, just that the body of work is not there for how do teams adjust to him in year 2, and how does it look once there's more pressure. I don't know. Just trying to mix in a little bit of a hang on Jaden Daniels. He's not quite Josh Allen yet. Mm-hmm. He's not quite Lamar yet. He is very good, obviously.
Well, make it the whole thing. Make it the Commanders, the whole program, the coach, the quarterback element of it. Versus the Bills, it would just be they've done it for 1 year, and even if I think they'll continue to do it, it's you've done it for 1 year, and these guys over here have done it for 5 or 6.
Right.
Like what is the higher risk? From his standpoint, sure, I think Washington would be that. Then that would come down to, though, how picky is he? It's not free agency. It's not, hey, I gotta, like Vaughn, right? Vaughn was very, he was very up in the air. Like, he didn't know what he really wanted to do. He really said, what did he say through the free agency process? One, he said he wanted to go back to Denver. Right, yep. He loved the idea of going back to Denver. Yeah, he said when he got here,
he said on the flight here, he questioned if he should be doing it.
Right, yeah. Maybe Dallas. Right, he was thinking about Dallas, right to the very end. So, when it's free agency, you got to pick your number one. Right, you got to pick your number one because that's how it works. If you're Garrett and you have 4 teams that all kind of meet the same qualifications for you. And even though, maybe Bills would be number 1 over Commanders because of all we're talking about, but for him, it's close enough to where the Browns say, hey, we're trading you to Washington because they have a better offer. Does Garrett try to exact leverage over something that to him might not be a monster difference? Like that to me is where it might be different. And maybe then it doesn't come down to what's Garrett's number 1? Because you're his second and third favorite choice. It might just be, okay, Cleveland's taking the best offer.
Yeah, I think that's right. He might give them a list of, you can tell these teams I'd be open to an extension. He might get permission to speak with other teams, right? They're going to give his agent permission to speak with other teams. Mm-hmm. We talked to Josh Phelps earlier this week from Cleveland, who said the Browns don't have to trade him. And that's just really hard to believe. He's out here. His conversation with Rich Eisen, he says, in my conversations with the higher ups, I feel like we have a different philosophy. I mean, this is not a blind side to them that he issued the statement about wanting a trade. He has had multiple conversations with them. My guess is that they're going to try and play the game and say we don't have to trade him and get the biggest offer they possibly can. But it's funny because, whenever there's a trade rumor, someone doesn't want to be there, someone doesn't want to be there, it becomes, well, that guy's got to go. Sal points this out. This is so different. It's not a rumor. He told the world. Yeah. He told the world. He
wrote a letter, and then he went on the air on Rich Eisen's show and for 20 minutes, 100%. This is what I want.
Yes, I want to leave. I told them this. It's about my career. It's about my window closing. The nuts and bolts of what he had to say was all about how he doesn't care about the money. He doesn't care about. He just wants the rings. He says he might be even rings poisoned. Like we talk about, it's too much about rings these days. His tone is like, nobody will care about anything I did unless I get rings. Which, okay, it's probably not true, but whatever. If that's what he wants, then I respect his desire to go pursue that and play in. He's talking about playing in meaningful games. Garrett strikes me as a guy that's watching the AFC Championship game or watching the divisional round and thinking, I got to be out there. Like, why am I home? I'm the best player in the league, and why am I here?
Right. I wonder how he. I wonder if this is going to be a testament to maybe it's better for these guys that want out to not be I wonder what's happening in Cleveland. Maybe this is happening no matter what. Him being villainized the way that a lot of guys will when they're trying to get out. How you get treated different if you aren't just doing it through leaks.
Right.
You know, if you're just right out in front of everybody, like, this is what I want, I'm putting my voice on it, I'm talking about it, I'm writing this letter, rather than, Rappaport says that Garrett might want out, and Pelissero now is saying that just like having it almost feel like it's happening behind closed doors. I wonder, he did say, didn't he say yesterday that he talked to LeBron about it?
He did, which, if you're a Cleveland fan, how does that strike you? Like, I talked about this with LeBron, how I wanted to leave to win.
How do I leave Cleveland? right? Like, maybe that actually isn't the best
well, I mean,
way for him to do it.
LeBron came back and made good, but
that's right.
He what does he say to LeBron? Like, hey, man, you left where you loved to try to pursue something that you wanted. Like, what's that like?
Well, right, maybe LeBron would have. I've read about LeBron and his regret, like the number one thing of his career that he regrets, like how he handled it, not like on the court, is the decision and how he was not open about it. Like he sprung it on Cleveland completely, that it was out of the blue. People didn't know until the word came out of his mouth. At least, like, the fans didn't know until the word South Beach came out of his mouth. Like, if he had a real conversation with Garrett, what did he probably tell Myles Garrett?
Be open.
Be open about it.
Yep.
To explain why you're doing it before you're out of there. Like, yeah, right. Be open with the fans, and maybe it won't be as bad.
Do you remember his thing about? So he goes to Miami, and then he tells everybody he's going back to Cleveland in an article in Sports Illustrated.
Right.
And that was a much more fleshed out story about why he did it.
Yes.
And in that, he explained a lot of the reasoning why he left Cleveland and went to Miami, and it made a lot of sense. Like, he was open about it. He said, I grew up in Ohio, and I felt like the kid that I never got to go away to college. So leaving home was something that felt like I should do, and now it's time to go back home. I was really respected LeBron's ownership of it after the fact. But like that whole episode where he blindsides them, that you're probably exactly right, that was his message to Garrett. Like, just don't do what I did.
Right.
And so Garrett says, like, okay, I love you all. I want something for myself. I've loved it here. I think you're all amazing, but we are not going to be doing that here. I've talked to the management. It doesn't feel like it's in the right place for me. I'm going to go seek something else.
Yeah.
If you're a Browns fan, I feel like the people you should be mad at are the Browns.
Yeah. So all that being said, I think he's getting out.
I do too.
100%.
803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. Jeremy and Joe, if you want to give a call, I never got to my text. I got to get a text from a listener about is this the right choice or just the sexy choice, so we can dig into that as well. It's, of course, Super Bowl week. The number of people that told me yesterday they are not watching leads me to think it's going to be the worst-rated Super Bowl ever, Joe. There's the good news. No one's watching this thing. People are legit tuning out. So we'll see what the number is. And the MVP tonight, I mean,
yep.
I don't know if I'm prepared for this.
I want to really find out from fans how much we care.
Okay.
Because my theory all year was we're going to get to this day and you're not going to care as much.
Yeah, that might be right. 803-0550, we'll talk about that as well. Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
Sneaky Joe DiBiase here. If your car's taking a hit, you should trust the pros at Clinton Collision. I got a little ding in my car I'm going to be taking to them because they're the people that I trust for this. Clinton Collision is a family-owned business. They've been serving Buffalo for over 70 years. They're earning trust all the time by treating customers like family, whether it is a fender bender or it's a ding like I got in my car right now. If you got to get something cleaned up for a lease return, or if you need a major repair, Clinton Collision on Clinton Street in Buffalo is the team that I trust, and you can too, especially in these winter months. You know, you hope something doesn't happen, but if something does, it's icy morning, whatever. Clinton Collision is who you should trust. Book your free estimate. Call 716-823-2000 or visit ClintonCollision.com. And when you do, be sure to tell them that Sneaky Joe sent you. Tonight is the NFL Honors, 9 o'clock. Snoop Dogg hosting. We'll find out if Josh Allen wins the MVP. Also, whether Damar Hamlin wins Comeback Player of the Year, and also Joe Brady for Assistant Coach of the Year. Those are the bills that are up for awards. Tonight, we'll find out the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025 and whether Eli Manning will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. To hockey, the Sabres on the ice for practice yesterday. No Dylan Cousins. That was not trade-related, though. He has a lower body injury. We'll see if he plays on Saturday. Same with Tage Thompson, who skated on his own yesterday. Lindy says he has a chance to play on Saturday against Nashville. Their final game before a 2-week break. NBA trade deadline is already rocking and rolling. Kevin Durant says he does not want to go back to the Golden State Warriors. So with that trade falling apart between Phoenix and Golden State, the Warriors went out and traded for Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat for a first-round pick and a bunch of players. It was a 5-team trade at the end of it. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Kick off 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Obviously, we got a really young group of receivers. All can be really, really, really special, but I think personally we need a guy that's proven to be a number one already.
That's Josh Jacobs, Packers running back.
Well, I thought they were the blueprint, though.
Listen,
all last year, like, oh, this is how you should do it.
This
Green
is
Bay.
right. R.I.P. the Packers model, 2023 to 2023. Listen, their receivers are still really good. They've got a bunch of good receivers, but that is maybe less than ideal to have your starting running back be like, hey, these guys are good, but we need somebody better.
Yeah, right.
I feel like Christian Watson's inability to stay on the field for them is a big factor, but, Romeo Doubs is great, and Jaden Reed's awesome, and Dontavian Wicks is good, but...
Romeo Doubs, contract year.
Yeah. There's Josh Jacobs. He is on the Packers wide receiver train. Good morning. It's Jeremy and Joe. It is very icy out there. I saw Pat Hammer with an update. The temperatures are expected to rise in a couple hours, so the glaze that's out there will melt, but there's definitely a glaze of ice on just about everything. So be careful. Take time. You might not think it's icy when you're driving, but it's, you got ice-covered roads and sidewalks and stairs and everything. So be careful. 803-0550 our number. One quick follow-up on Myles Garrett. Denzel Ward of the Browns just saw an article moments ago that if they trade Garrett, he might want out too. Basically, the direction of the franchise, what are we going to do here? Listen, if they trade Garrett and they trade Ward, they could have, Joe, this is how you rebuild. You're going to be bad. This is how you do it. Denzel Ward's good.
Yeah. All right.
So
3 firsts. Greg Rousseau, and what to get both of them?
You want both of them?
I want both of them. Yes, I want both of them.
No.
Dalton Kincaid. Do they want him?
They have David Njoku.
Okay, they don't want him. Do they want... They definitely don't want Kyer Elam. Right?
Everybody throwing Kyer Elam
He
in trades.
is the throw-in to a trade for like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They want... What do the Browns want? Is Rousseau the only player that makes any sense for them? Like, he's the only player that we've really mentioned.
Yeah.
As a throw into a trade.
I feel like Epinesa is maybe not make more sense, but there's a guy that plays. Rousseau has to sign. And if you're signing on for a rebuild, whatever. If you're going to give me $100 million, maybe I'll sign on to a rebuild. But
Christian Benford's too good for this?
I don't know.
You're not putting him in a trade?
Pressure's on, Brandon Bean. The world's watching. I saw Pete Prisco say the Bills have to go all in. Yeah. So anyway, Joe, someone wrote to me on Twitter. Charlie wrote this and asked this question about Garrett. And we got to get the MVP conversation as well because that's tonight. Where do the Bills need the help? A better secondary would help. A dominant defensive end and a difference-maker defensive tackle are all possibilities. What's the best answer? And he suggests that Myles Garrett is the sexy answer. Well, Garrett's the sexy answer. What's the best answer? It's really tough to try and come up with any answer that's better than the best defensive player in football. Right? I mean, you could say it's sexy. You could say a lot of different things. He's the best defensive player in football.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe this year it's going to be Patrick Surtain that wins that award. So, sometimes people say like, oh, this is the sexy move and mean it as a slight to the idea. It's
almost like just a big name, like when Beckham was an idea.
Yeah.
For us here.
Yeah, when Beckham was an idea as like, okay, he's shown he's still valuable. Maybe he can still play. Maybe he can get back to where he was. You need somebody at this position, and there's nobody else out there. This is just if everybody in the entire league were out there, this is who you would probably take. Like,
right.
This is who you'd want.
Yeah, I don't. Who would anybody want more? I'd rather have Surtain, right? Would I rather have T.J. Watt? No. Right?
No,
Isn't he 2 years older?
Definitely no.
Would I rather... Max Crosby was a name, like, actually we had maybe callers like a week or two ago that said, yeah, I think I might rather have Crosby. We had somebody that called in and said that they thought, Myles Garrett was too nice compared to Max Crosby.
Well, Crosby is a specific, he gets after Mahomes and talks trash to him all day, and it'd be fun to have that guy on their team.
Yeah, he's always in his face.
Yes, because he kind of hates Mahomes.
That's right. That's fine, though. But, like, if you sack him and then you don't say anything to him after, I'm fine with that too, I guess. Yeah. But like Crosby's not as I don't think. Like, I mean, again, we're almost nitpicking at this point because these are like some of the best players in the league. But I think Garrett's probably better than Crosby is. Who else is? Is there a safety you would put? Who's the best safety in football right now?
The best safety in football, is it Kyle Hamilton? I don't know.
Okay. Who's the best linebacker in football? Like, yeah, sure, like Kyle Hamilton. Like,
it's probably not Kyle Hamilton. He's just got the name that popped in my head.
Right. Like, even for the Bills' sake, though, any of these guys, maybe Surtain would be a little different because, he's like insane. But what's the thing they've been chasing that they haven't had? They've had an elite corner. Like they have had elite linebackers. They've had elite safeties. They have never had, except for like a 7-game stretch in 21 or 22, they've never had an elite pass rusher.
With McDermott.
We know what a McDermott defense looks like with an elite corner. We know what it looks like with an elite safety. We know what it looks like with an elite linebacker. Do we know what it looks like with a Myles Garrett?
No, and if he wants to rush with 4, no single player will give you more ability to rush with 4 than him.
Right. He also, by the way, does not come off the field. If you look at the snap counts that he's played in his 5 years, like, never comes off the field, which is very different from the way the Bills do things.
Yeah.
But we did just see a little bit of a view into this last year, how much more Rousseau played than others. Like, maybe when there is really a big gap between who your number 1 is and then who your number 3 or number 4 is, then they would be willing to play the guy a lot more. Because I can't believe, if they traded for Myles Garrett, that he's going to be like a 50% snap guy like some of their other ends are.
803-0550, our number, to the MVP conversation in a moment. Sal just texting us a picture. He's got a brand new 60-inch television, and he has us on it because we're on the YouTube stream. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, my face is not supposed to be on a television that big at any point ever, so apologies to anybody that's doing that.
We don't have the lighting in this room yet for me to be on a 60-inch TV.
Also, Thursday is, I broadcast from home on Thursdays, but due to, like, family and kid stuff, so you're getting a good 60-inch look at my Carrier Dome parking sign.
Yeah, I know. That's the one.
The one thing I have
in this, only thing
in this
on
home
the wall
office
back there
is the Carrier Dome parking sign.
What does that say? Where champions play in the back?
Yes, it does. It does say where champions play. Joe, it says that. Yeah, right. We've got a lacrosse team that's won an awful lot. What do you want from me? And the
women's hockey team won a championship.
Men's soccer won a national championship.
That was recent, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they don't play in the Dome; they play outside. Yeah. Anyway, the MVP. It's tonight. Listen, It is kind of funny that the MVP conversation the whole year, it was Armageddon every week. I would sit here and just yell to you, why do we have to do every single week? Well, the odds are doing this, and now they're doing that. Who's the MVP now? What about Joe Burrow? And every single week it was a conversation. The playoffs started, and everybody shut up. And here it's going to be awarded tonight. And what? Are we sitting on a powder keg for tomorrow? Like, when Lamar wins it tomorrow, are there going to be, what? Full phone lines complaining about I don't know, conspiracy? Is it the kind of thing where, like you said, once your team got knocked out of the playoffs, you don't care? It was supposed to be a referendum. It is supposed to be kind of a referendum on Josh and Lamar and Mahomes. And the playoffs specifically kind of laid out, like, oh, well, Josh won the game, and Mahomes is in the Super Bowl. So,
right.
Do you still care the way you did back in Week 5?
The energies doesn't seem to be the same, right? I don't see the same social media. The people aren't fighting with Ravens fans the way they were. I don't see any of it. They're not even odds listed anymore, really, in most of these places. So, I kind of thought this was predictable the whole time. It's because of the timing of when the award is given out. Maybe if they'd given it out the day after the regular season, going into the playoffs like the NBA does. The NBA awards MVP to their MVP on their first home game of the postseason. So that would be if Goodell had awarded Allen the MVP right before they played the Broncos in the wild card round. That's what the NBA does.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd care about it more then. And I'm not even saying fans don't care about it tonight, but I'm just not... How much better is it really going to make you feel? It'll be cool. It'll be good for Allen.
You'd feel good for Allen.
Yeah, it would be a big part of his resume if you're starting to build him up as an all-time great. But, you're still going to have to watch the Chiefs play on Sunday. Yep. There's only so much I feel like you can get excited about it when the season ended a week and a half ago. So I thought this was predictable the whole time, which is why the amount of attention and energy that was paid to it drove me crazy sometimes. It's you're not even going to care when it's awarded.
He's an underdog going into tonight, isn't he?
I think so.
He was the favorite most of the year, and he's an underdog going into the night just because of the way the other awards have gone. First team All-Pro.
Yep.
And the Pro Football Writers Association MVP, he's an underdog going in.
And I think I looked when they did this. I think it is the same 50 voters that they're voting on All Pro that are voting on the MVP. At least I think they're the same. I know it's the same number. It's 50 and 50. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't the same 50 people. And it hasn't happened since the 80s that a quarterback has won the MVP while not being named first team All Pro.
Yeah, 37 years.
So I guess. You've made this point. If there ever was, I think you've made this point. If there ever was a year where you would separate the two, maybe this would be the year because of the circumstances of Lamar winning it twice and already, and him putting up the big numbers. But he's got all these all pros on his team, and Allen is kind of by himself. It felt more so I guess if there was a year for it to be different, maybe it could be this year. But I am very much prepared for him to not win it tonight.
803-0550 to join us. Jeremy and Joe have an interesting story about the NHL and viewership to pass along when we get back. So stay tuned for that. What is the NHL losing to? There's a new kid on the block, and on ESPN, the NHL is losing to this new kid on the block. I'll tell you who that is next up here on WGR. Jeremy White here for Whalen Brewing, one of my absolute favorite spots. Highest recommendation to get to Whalen for a number of reasons. First off, you want a bite to eat, beer, good times, good atmosphere. Whalen has all those things. They've also got the ability to host larger events for you if that's something you're interested in doing. So whether it's the 18,000 square feet of the tap room, brewery, merchandise shop, beer shop, all that, or the private party spaces. They've got spaces for if you got a fantasy football draft or exclusive beer tastings or intimate dinners, you can get one of the rooms that does that. You can get the beer garden. You can get the Wayland Hall, which is up to 220 guests. Beautiful natural light in there for anything from weddings, corporate events, showers, anything. Wayland's got lots and lots of options for you. Always something happening. Kids eat free on Mondays. It's a great scene on the weekends. Whalen Brewing. Mark your calendars for the month of February. They got pre-sale tickets for Songbirds. They're going to have Nerds Gone Wild there trivia, which is a fun time as well. Book your midweek event with 75 guests or more for Wednesdays or Thursdays, April through July, and pay a $0 room fee. So Whalen Brewing, a space for everyone and a place for everyone. That's just fantastic. Whalen Brewing. Stop, grab some beer to go. It's 3740 North Buffalo Street. For any event, Whalen Brewing. Find your way to great beer. So, Joe, some numbers on NHL viewership.
Okay.
On ESPN and TNT from awfulannouncing.com. The NHL on ESPN is not doing very well. Not really at all. They're losing to lots of things, including TGL is outdrawing the NHL on ESPN.
Okay.
There was a game last Thursday, San Jose and Seattle was the least watched NHL game of the year and the lowest viewed program on ESPN for the entire day. They're getting outdrawn by a lot, everything. East-West Shrine game, Iowa State, Kansas State women's basketball, the NHL. It's doing okay on ABC, I guess, but when it's on ESPN, people are just not watching hockey.
Yeah.
And I just find that to be really interesting. Here's the cap estimated to go up, 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 up. And I don't know what their next broadcast deal will be like in the U.S., but I mean, ESPN does not get a return on investment for hockey on their airwaves.
No, the NHL, like I would wonder, I'm sure the NHL does. Like, I don't have the number in front of me. Wouldn't you bet this is higher than what it was on NBC? NBC Sports Network?
Yeah, you would think so.
But, right. From it would matter more about what does ESPN think about it.
Right.
I mean, they could start burying it on
the Ocho.
The Ocho, right? ESPN News. I mean, just ESPN Plus. Like I as a hockey fan, I have that package, and that I love having that because it's basically like having NHL Center Ice or whatever they call the.
Yeah, you're right.
Whatever it is.
Yep. So anyway, there's that.
What was the game? Seattle and who?
Seattle, San Jose.
I mean, also,
it's a 10:30 window.
10:30. The Kraken and the Sharks.
I know.
I would expect to be pretty bad. Like,
but
that's
it's across the league.
Bruins Rangers on. It's 7,
across the full league on ESPN, TNT, and ESPN. The league is not performing in the ratings, and that's it is February. It's dog days. It'd be interesting to see how things go for the Four Nations, if that grabs a lot of eyes, and the caliber of hockey will be important for that. Like, is it high flying? Is it a lot of fun to watch? Hopefully, it's a good event.
They're talking. Matthew Tkachuk's talking like he's about to run everybody on Team Canada. So it might be pretty fiery. We'll see.
That's nice. That's not bad.
And his brother's going to be on his line too. So the two Tkachuks together, I think, could fire that tournament up in like one shift.
Are you prepared? Are you ready to start firing off and getting going on Eli Manning going to the Hall of Fame?
I've never been more prepared for anything in my entire life than this day. Yes.
I'm ready. I'm ready for this rant. Hall of Fame class gets announced tonight. MVP gets announced tonight. It's the NFL Honors. Jeremy and Joe on WGR. Oh, we're recording? All right, good. Tell you about FanDuel. Jeremy White here for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of WGR. Whether you're riding with the Chiefs or the Eagles, there's another way to win big during the Super Bowl with a boosted bet right now. There's a profit boost from FanDuel. They put together two parlays that feature this profit boost. So if you think the Chiefs are going to win and Mahomes throws for 225, you bet that and get bigger winning if it hits. If you think the Eagles are going to win, it's a two-way parlay with Eagles win and Saquon Barkley over 100 rushing yards. And that's it. Profit boost on that too. So you get a profit boost on one of those two-leg parlays. Chiefs and Mahomes over 225 or Eagles and Barkley over 100. The parlays are all set to bet. Visit FanDuel.com/white to claim your exclusive profit boost. Go to FanDuel.com/white to bet Super Bowl 59 on America's #1 sportsbook and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NFL. So pick which side you like, put your parlay, it's boosted for you. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
NFL honors tonight, 9 o'clock. We're going to find out after all the debate all year if Josh Allen wins the MVP or if it'll be Lamar Jackson. Also, whether or not it'll be Damar Hamlin for Comeback Player of the Year and Joe Brady for Assistant Coach of the Year. Those two are up for those awards as well. Again, that's at 9 tonight. We'll find out the Hall of Fame class of 2025, whether or not Eli Manning will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. To hockey. The Sabres were on the ice for practice yesterday. They have one more game before the Four Nations break. That'll be Saturday night in Nashville. Tage Thompson has a chance to play. So does Luukkonen, according to Lindy Ruff. Dylan Cousins was not on the ice for practice yesterday. No, that was not trade-related. He is dealing with a lower body injury. No Mattias Samuelsson either. In basketball, today is the NBA trade deadline, 3 o'clock, and there's already been a lot of movement. You had the Luka trade earlier in the week. Kevin Durant says no to the Golden State Warriors. He does not want a reunion. So after that trade fell apart, the Warriors went out and traded for Heat superstar Jimmy Butler for a big package and 5 teams involved in the trade. NBA trades are nuts. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
No secret that quarterback has been the issue in Cleveland. When you look ahead again to potential spots, is that something that's important to you, joining a team where the quarterback is set and ready to compete?
Absolutely. Any playoff team or any championship team, they're going to have a quarterback, a good quarterback. And you've seen some game managers, go out there with a great defense and win it all. But, if you want to consistently be at the top, you got to have a really good quarterback.
Myles Garrett there with Mina Kimes. Wonder how long this Garrett thing will go. If the Browns just get it squared away early, or if it goes all the way to the draft.
I hope they drag it out.
Drag it out.
I mean, we got to talk about something. If they don't have a first round pick,
right,
for 3 months or one next year,
right.
I mean, draft coverage is just comes to a grinding halt. The train goes into the station, right?
I know.
I guess second round picks still be interesting, but
803-0550, your number. Jeremy and Joe. Good morning. On today, so you've got the Hall of Fame class and the MVP. Joe's got a Eli Manning rant ready or whatever. You've got an encyclopedia of why Eli should not make the Hall of Fame. I'll just say this. Let me get this in there first, okay?
Go ahead.
It is a good weekend potentially to be a Tom Brady hater.
Okay.
Because if Eli goes in, why does he go in? Because he beat Brady twice. And if Mahomes wins, what's up for Brady? Well, I guess Mahomes the GOAT now. If you like hating Brady, you might be able to take that out of this weekend as a silver lining. That a lot of the conversation was about players being better than him either in a game or in their career. So I'm taking that with me.
Also, wouldn't we expect him to get dunked on a lot when he inevitably is bad on Sunday? Doing the call of the game, I mean.
Possibly.
I'm betting that's going to happen. I guess he could be okay. He could surprise us a little bit, but I wouldn't think he's going to be what he normally is, which is kind of sloppy and timing's a little bit off and doesn't say anything interesting whatsoever.
The good news is, isn't this the game? I know it's the Super Bowl, but is the game so big that it doesn't even matter if he doesn't say anything that interesting?
Sure.
It's the Super Bowl. And people are mad and not going to watch it anyway, so I don't know. 803-0550 if you want to join us. Eli. There are numbers out there. I'm seeing a bunch of Eli stuff. I'm sure you've got your favorite ones.
Oh, I've got a database just
that
ready
Eli
to go.
Manning won playoff games in 2 seasons, and that's all.
C.J. Stroud has equaled him
in
years with
seasons.
Playoff wins.
Yeah.
Yep, that's happened. There's so many. I mean, but the reason why there are so many is he wasn't that great. He was never that great. He won 2 Super Bowls against Brady, and that is going to get him in. He threw 2 passes in those games that will propel him in as well. To me, though, I don't know where I've been. I've got a lot. I'm even looking through my old tweets right now because I've got friends
Eli
that are
Manning?
I've got friends that are Giants fans, and I'm always poking them about it because I do believe it. I never thought he was that good. But the one thing that I've been kind of harping on recently is, okay, sure, he beat Brady twice. Do you know how many points he had to score in those two football games to
One of them
win
was
those Super Bowls?
17.
One was 17.
Yeah.
And the other was 15. That was his bar to clear to win those Super Bowls. So, okay, sure. He did beat Brady twice. We're just going to historically look back and give no credit to the fact that the Giants in those Super Bowls completely stopped the Patriots' offenses. Like, in comparing him to, like, Nick Foles, for instance, who I've done that with because Foles has also beat Brady in a Super Bowl. Foles scored more points in one Super Bowl, which he had to do, by the way, to beat Brady, than Eli scored in two. But that doesn't matter, right? Because it was two separate games. We're going to give it. And because of how Eli did it, which is two of the most memorable plays in Super Bowl history. Does anyone remember another play that he made in those Super Bowls?
No. I remember the Tyree catch and the Manningham catch.
Right. That's it.
Yep.
Like, I understand why he's going to get in. To me, it is such a flimsy take. Like, it really was stark when I was looking at him versus Foles for their careers, how close they are. Like, all their numbers, regular season and in the playoffs. Like, their playoff win percentage is exactly the same. Their touchdown interception is exactly the same. Foles actually has a better yards per attempt. Foles has a better completion percentage. And again, like, I don't think Nick Foles was that good, but what are we doing here? Oh, he beat Brady in a Super Bowl. Like, that's all that matters now.
This is the ultimate telling the story of the sport player, is it not?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at the statistics,
it's that. It's not just that though. I also have always believed it's his last name.
Right.
If his name was John Hamilton, I don't think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Would he be a Hall of Fame quarterback? Hold on. Right. It's because of his name. It's because of the legacy. That's part of it for sure. I guess my question would be about Eli in this spot. Like, the stats. Not to say stats don't matter, because stats, of course, do matter, and statistics do matter. The offensive thing about Eli might be that if he goes in as a first ballot, is it possible he doesn't go in today, but just he's going to get in? I think there's a large belief he's going to get in. The idea that he should be a first ballot to me is, of course, insane.
Yeah.
The voters made Terrell Owens wait 3 years.
Yes, they did.
Right? Like, because they didn't like him?
Yes.
Or they thought he was a bad teammate or something, and here's Eli Manning going to be a first ballot?
Yeah.
How much should we obsess over first ballot, second ballot? I mean, I got mad that Curtis Martin went in as a first ballot guy. I didn't think that was right.
He was a first ballot?
Was he first ballot? Michael Irvin was first ballot. I mean,
yeah.
Michael Irvin's an all-time great. He doesn't have crazy numbers. He played in a different era.
Yeah.
I wonder how obsessed we should be about first, second, third ballot kind of stuff. But for me, like, Terrell Owens going in on his third, and if Eli goes in on his first, that'll be the biggest problem I have, is a first ballot guy. I get telling the story of the game, and if you've got Brady in, and who's the guy that beat Brady in 2 Super Bowls? Oh, he's here too? Mm-hmm. Right. No matter how you slice it, I tend to agree with you. It comes across as kind of flimsy.
Well, because, what are we trying to do here? Like, if that is what we're trying to do, we're just trying to tell the story of the league, and that is the qualification of getting in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Okay. I get it. I understand it. But is that what we've been doing this whole time? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought we were trying to evaluate who the best players of all time were.
Well, we're certainly not going in like EPA.
No, but
the Hall of Fame voters are not busting out EPA per play and adjusted net yards per attempt.
How about 117 and 117?
All right.
How about the fact the dude played 20 years in the NFL, and he's the same win percentage as Jeff Garcia, Ryan Tannehill, Tavares Jackson, Tyrod Taylor, Matt Moore, Brock Osweiler, and Shane Matthews. How about that? How about that? That's not EPA. That's your record. You were a 500 quarterback.
Listen, I think you're wasting your time. You should be in Canton today on the steps of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I did.
With these, just like holding up signs that say, Brock Osweiler, Jeff Garcia.
Jay Cutler with a good PR agent. There's another one.
You're ready. You're ready
I'm
for
so
this.
ready.
I'm not even playing devil's advocate. You've got me convinced 10 times over. And I'm over here trying to say, like, well, what if, no.
I am not going to do this, but I've told my Giants buddy that I've debated with this for 10 years, that if the day he gets into Canton, I am going to that stage and I'm going to super glue myself to the stage with some sort of T-shirt or something. It is insane. I don't want to say it's insane he gets in. If we are just making it clear, it's about the story of the league. Anyone that even pretends that he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, though, I'm ready to fight at all. There is no argument. There is no argument that he was one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He was never even close to the best quarterback in a single year that he played.
No, that's right. He wasn't. He had freakish runs in the playoffs. One of those runs was a team that was 9-7.
Yes,
and won a bunch of games.
And again, I don't know how much I want to get hung up on the Super Bowl point, but it is there for me that we just do kind of conveniently leave out that in the 2 Super Bowls, it was not shootouts. It was not Allen in the 13-second game trying to outduel Patrick Mahomes. He had to score 15 and then 18 points to win those 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
He scored 38 in 2 games. He was not prolific. He was fine. His stats in those games are fine. He scored 17, and he scored 21. But he did not outduel Tom Brady. The Patriots didn't score in either of those games. And that's why he'll get in, is those 2 games.
Yeah, those 2 games. Those 2 playoff runs.
That's, I guess, a lot of it, too, for me, is that he's going to get in, and he played in his entire pro football career between 17 years. He played 248 games. And I really do feel like we only watched 2 of them. He's only getting the other 246 games. No, they don't matter. They might as well not have happened because we are only going to look at the 2 games. That's it. The 2 plays even of those 2 games. We are going to 8,000 pass attempts. Doesn't matter. Whatever. He was average on those 8,000 pass attempts. Yeah, we don't care. That is where I really get hung up on this. Because, again, stats, watching it, as it happened over the years, I just don't understand how anybody watched that career and said, yeah, that was one of the greats.
Well, Nick Folk at NFL.com, or sorry, Adam Rank NFL.com has predicted the 5 that will go in this weekend. And he has it as Adam Vinatieri.
Okay.
Do you have lengthy cases to make against all these?
He's probably the best kicker ever, isn't he?
Yeah, he's up there.
So, sure, fine.
So, Adam Vinatieri, Adam Rank predicts Torrey Holt will make it, Antonio Gates, Luke Kuechly, and then he says, which leads us to Eli Manning, not how he would vote, but he does think Manning goes in this time. I'll tell you one player who's eligible who... Do you think it's tougher to get in if you played for multiple teams? Because Jared Allen's career, let me give you Jared Allen, who is up for the Hall of Fame. He played with the Chiefs from 04 to 07, the Vikings from 08 to 13, then the Bears from 14 to 15, and then the Panthers. 4 teams in 11 years. It just feels like if you played all those years with one team, it might boost your odds a little bit. But I'm not sure if there's any science in that.
Right.
I mean, Eli played for one team for 15 years. They've got Steve Smith, who's eligible. He played for the Carolina Panthers for more than a decade. Terrell Suggs, 15 years with the Ravens, right? A lot of these guys that make it here, whether it's by design or just kind of baked in, you've got some candidates. Reggie Wayne, 13 years with the Colts, is up this year as a finalist. Willie Anderson, a million years with Cincinnati at tackle.
I do think that could really, especially, Allen, it happened not end of his career, right? Didn't it kind of happen? Jared Allen. I mentioned him the other day. He was in that stat about most sacks ever in your 20s.
Yeah,
I think he's only one of 2 that's above Myles Garrett. Garrett will catch probably both of them this year. But yeah, he was incredible. And I think of Vikings for him, right?
Yep.
But I guess that's really what it comes down to. Do you remember him as a Viking? Do you remember him on one team? If you have that one team where the guy built an identity there, then Dwight Freeney makes the Hall of Fame. I didn't realize how many teams Dwight Freeney played for at the end. Right? He played for the Chargers in San Diego.
But it was the Colts for what? 8 years, 9 years?
It was the Colts for 11 years.
Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly.
But then he goes San Diego, Atlanta, Arizona, Detroit, Seattle. Like the last 5 years of his career, he's all over the place. He's a journeyman at the end of it. But nobody cares because we remember the Colts. And maybe if it was split more evenly, like if Allen had left in the middle of the Minnesota days while he was at his best and went somewhere else, then maybe it would be more of a thought process for me. But I do think there's a point here. There is definitely a point to be made about if I guess that actually is him with Kansas City. If you're on one team the whole time, I would bet that does something in the back of.
I think it's a small, maybe medium boost for you. Yeah. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. NFL honors tonight.
I will say, by the way, last thing on Eli, he has made it a lot harder to root against him getting in the Hall of Fame because I will say post-career, he's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, you like him?
I've loved post-career Eli better than in-career Eli. It's my opinion.
He'll also, by the way, will we refer to him as Hall of Famer Eli Manning trying the kick of destiny 3 when he and Peyton go out there and try and kick field goals.
Is he a Hall of Famer before the induction?
That's a great question.
If you're voted in, but you don't have the jacket yet.
You're Hall of Fame elect, kind of like president-elect, right?
Hall of Fame
You're not sworn in yet, but you've been chosen to be a Hall of Famer.
Well, that's what I believe we would have to refer to him then. This is Hall of Famer Peyton Manning going up against Hall of Fame elect Eli Manning.
There you go.
I think is how you'd have to do it.
In a kicking competition.
What's the distance on that field goal that they're kicking?
That I don't know.
It can't be that far. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're in their 40s.
Not quite sure. How far could you hit a field goal?
Ooh, I could hit a field goal.
It's 25 yards, by the way.
I could do that.
You could make a 25-yarder first try?
Maybe. Like, I bet I would, I'd have a shot at getting it on the first try. If I tried it 10 times, I bet I'd make like 6. I bet 5 or 6 of them.
You'd make 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Wow.
25 yards? That's nothing. Right? I don't have a line in front of me. Or are you making this like a real field goal? Do I have to kick it over a line?
Just a regular place kick. You can have,
from the 15-yard line,
I'm
kicking a football.
You're going to make 6 out of 10.
Yeah. I'm going to make 6 out of 10. I don't think 25 is as far as you think it is.
Well, no, but getting the ball up in the air, straight, on line,
Think of it this way. It's a 25-yard chip with a sand wedge. I just have to kick a football that far.
Right.
That's not that far.
So think of the 25 yards like 25 yards?
Yes. But
today's not the day to do it, though, if you want to go outside. Today's not the day for us to go to a football field and see if you can do this with the freezing rain.
It would be tougher today. I'd have to stretch a lot. It's very cold. I'd probably slip. No, I do think there's listen, if you ever want to make something football-wise seem easier, just compare it to golf. Because the distances feel like they shouldn't add up to the same thing. Where Josh Allen throwing the ball as far as he possibly can is me taking like 40% of a sand wedge.
Right, I know. That is kind of odd. Every time you're in a football stadium, you look and think like that can't be a 56-degree wedge from one end to the other.
I did. The last time I was on the Bills field would have been. We did like a yoga thing that was on the field during the summer, and after we were just hanging out on the field after, and I'm just standing there. Like, probably ignoring the conversation because in my mind, I'm just looking. I'm like on the 40-yard line. I'm looking straight ahead to 30. And I'm like, that's all a first down is? Yeah. It's like right there. And that is that hard to get to because it just doesn't, when you're standing there, it just doesn't feel like it's that far at all.
803-0550. Let's get a call in. Mark in Amherst is up. Hey, Mark. Good morning.
Hey, how's it going?
Good
morning. How are you guys? Hey, I got a quick question for Joe. Would he agree? Now, my call could end pretty short after this question if it's answered correctly, but would he agree that Jim Kelly should be a Hall of Fame quarterback?
I would say yes. I think I'd say yes.
So if you look at the stats, Eli Manning has like 130 more touchdowns, is like 20,000 more passing yards, is a similar quarterback rating, same completion percentage, and he has 2 more Super Bowls. So if Jim Kelly, you would say, is a Hall of Fame quarterback, I think that just wraps it up, that Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame too.
I think the very big difference, there's two very big differences. One,
Yes.
Kelly, there was a year, 2-3 years where he was one of the best quarterbacks in football. He was first-team All-Pro.
Yeah.
He almost won the MVP. He didn't because Thurman did that year. And if you want to bring up touchdown-to-interception ratio, if you look at those numbers, it is a list of guys that played in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and Eli. Like if you do at some like looking at their peers who they played in the same era with, I don't know where Kelly actually ranks amongst his peers, but I know Eli's got the worst.
I know, but the basis, I mean, you have to go to a statistical basis at some point, and we're talking 20,000 more yards, 130 more touchdowns.
Well, how many more years did he play?
I don't know.
I mean, Eli played till he was 38.
11. Eli played, what did Eli play, 14? Kelly played
Here we go. Eli played 16 years, and Kelly played 11. So 5 additional years of numbers.
This is the statistical stuff. Like, you kind of can't.
But longevity plays a factor too, doesn't it?
Listen, I think if you are trying to compare Eli and Kelly, you need to begin and end with the Super Bowls. That's it. I don't think. I think if you compare the two by what.
Well, listen. Do we want to do QB wins? If a guy makes a kick, Kelly has a win.
QB, right? But right, that's right. He was really bad in the other Super Bowls.
I mean, Eli never made the first or second team All-Pro. Kelly was a first and a second team All-Pro. We do this with MVP. Now we're doing it with the Hall of Fame. What should it be? Should it be that you are one of the best at your position a certain number of times out of a certain number of years? Mm-hmm. We're asking, are you one of the best ever? And I mean, it depends. The Hall within the Hall. How many quarterbacks are in? Where would Kelly rank among those quarterbacks?
Probably near the bottom.
Maybe. And who else is going in? Listen, when Josh goes in, who's a better quarterback, Josh or Jim? What Bills fans say right now? What would they say in 5 more years?
I think even now you might get them to say Josh.
I mean, Mahomes goes in, he's above him. There's guys that go in, and the Chopin Bulldog used to have a great segment, the Hall of Fame Rejection Committee.
Oh, I loved it.
It was the best. I loved it. Picking out guys and whittling it down to who really are the best Hall of Famers to try and find out who is the best of the best of the best. And, I feel like, Mark, your point on Kelly is not a bad one because I don't think anyone would suggest, like, that guy was the slam dunk of slam dunks to make it. He got in. And Eli has some resume that gets him there, but a lot of it is missing. Eli goes in, he'll be one of the worst quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. Would anyone even dispute that? You could say he should get in. He should get in. Wouldn't you immediately say, well, he's one of the worst ones to be in there?
He's the worst quarterback in the Hall of Fame the second he gets in my opinion. We very conveniently, I know Super Bowls matter most, rings matter most. We very conveniently pretend that he wasn't this perennial winner. Like, okay, do we want to do QB wins or don't we want to do QB wins? I know we're going to make the playoffs count more. I understand that. But, okay, we want to look at those two as winners. Sure, Kelly lost 4 Super Bowls and was bad in at least 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. His record all time was 101-59. Eli was 117-117. Why does that not ever count? For this player alone, it's because I know the answer. It's because of the 2 rings. But I just feel like it is at least worth a mention. It is not like Eli was out here game managing his way to great records year after year after year. He was a 500 quarterback.
In terms of if you want to go turnovers here, especially Kelly's career high in turnovers in interceptions rather was 19, which is a big number. But it's more representative of the time he played. Kelly routinely threw 17, 18, 17, 19, 19 interceptions. That was normal then. Now, the league leaders in interceptions, like Josh threw 17 and everyone freaked out. Oh my goodness, this is a disaster. Eli has 3 seasons of more than 20, including 27 interceptions in 2013. As interceptions have come down and down and down and down by era because quarterbacks are whatever, whether they're coached better or they're not gunslinging or all, teams design their entire offense trying not to turn the ball over. Eli was a turnover machine in an era when turnovers were coming down, and Kelly threw turnovers when it was kind of normal.
Do you want to know, like, the turnover point is a good one because, right, Kelly plays in an era where they were all over the place. Eli throwing 27 interceptions in 2013
is wild.
Is mind-blowing. I mean, who are his peers? Touchdown interception ratio, Eli is 1.3 to 1. Rodgers is 4.1 to 1. Like, now it's the top, right? That's the tippy top. But if I were to look at, okay, here's one. Interception percentage. What percentage of your passes went for interceptions? And you look at the all-time rank of it. Eli's 73rd, right? Okay, don't do it that way. Don't compare him to, he's got the same number as Troy Aikman, right? Compare Eli to the guys that played in the same era as him. Who are the guys with the same percentage of passes that went for picks that played at the same time as Eli Manning did? The answers, Trent Green, Matt Castle, Aaron Brooks, Josh McCown, Chad Henne, David Carr, Blaine Gabbert, Jay Cutler, that's a better one that's up there, Fitzpatrick, Joey Harrington. Like, these are not good names of good quarterbacks. That's how often he turned the ball over.
Yep.
All the guys that played in his era, like Rodgers is number 1, not 73rd. Brady's number 5. And, Russell Wilson is number 7. And, like, all the guys that played a long time in the 2000s in numbers like that because of the era are all, like, top 15, top 20. And Eli's sitting down there almost at 100.
Yep. 8030550 pointed out in the chat very astutely, those numbers about how many more yards he passed for than Jim. Passing attempts career, Kelly's like 4,800. Eli's 8,100.
Yeah, that's a huge
3,000 more attempts. So that, volume. Anyway.
Kelly had half a yard more per attempt playing in an era where there was not near as much passing.
Yeah. 8030550, our phone number. NFL honors tonight. MVP to Josh, to Lamar. Got some interesting numbers on the Eagles' run game against the Chiefs to get you a little bit later today. And, it might get in the way of a good story about Saquon Barkley if he has a big day, which I think he might. This should indicate that he might. 8030550, 1-888-550-2550. Thanks, Matt, for the phone call. And, good thought experiment. Good thing to kind of kick around comparing him to another Hall of Famer, Jim Kelly. So you can give us a ring, 8030550, if you want. Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
Tonight is the NFL Honors, 9 o'clock. Snoop Dogg hosting. We'll find out if Josh Allen wins the MVP. Also, whether Damar Hamlin wins Comeback Player of the Year, and also Joe Brady for Assistant Coach of the Year. Those are the bills that are up for awards. Tonight, we'll find out the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025 and whether Eli Manning will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. To hockey, the Sabres on the ice for practice yesterday. No Dylan Cousins. That was not trade-related, though. He has a lower body injury. We'll see if he plays on Saturday. Same with Tage Thompson, who skated on his own yesterday. Lindy says he has a chance to play on Saturday against Nashville. Their final game before a 2-week break. NBA trade deadline is already rocking and rolling. Kevin Durant says he does not want to go back to the Golden State Warriors. So with that trade falling apart between Phoenix and Golden State, the Warriors went out and traded for Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat for a first-round pick and a bunch of players. It was a 5-team trade at the end of it. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Kick off 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
I would liken it to when I had Tyler Myers when I started out. It probably took him 3-4 years to the one point I still remember when he told me after year 2, I still don't have my man strength. And a conversation like that just sticks with you. You look at a guy that was 6'7", you expect physicality, you expect he wasn't strong enough. You know, those first couple of years we worked on trying to get him stronger, eat more, put on a few pounds, and not put on weight that doesn't help you, but get stronger to where you can end plays and physically you can be a dominating guy. I think the league has these guys. Some guys take longer. I wish it happened quicker. Some guys have it right from the start. Their build, their body, their training has been exceptional to that point, and that's where we have to get our guys to.
Lindy Ruff, really good yesterday on... That's on Power. Asking him about, does he going to get stronger? And he's only 22. And Lindy's like, yeah, I think, Mike Wilson he compared him to also. Like big young defensemen that have the big frame, but they are not that strong. Or they're not as strong as they want to be. And it's hard for them to be as strong as they want to be when they show up in the league and be as strong as, a 30-year-old Victor Hedman. Like it's just not, some guys it's not feasible. Power is really interesting to me because he is, I think, very talented and makes a big positive impact on the game. He is steady and I think is a very good player when it comes to moving the puck up the ice. They have had so many bad defensemen at that over the years. Like when they were, if I just imagining, if Power were on this team when Eichel was, when Reinhart was, it would have looked better. Forwards that were worthy of, let's get the puck up to him and watch him go. And what did they have then? They had defensemen like Risto and Bogosian that just could not get it up to him. They were like the worst in the league at getting the puck out of your own end cleanly. And that's like Power's, I think, strong suit. But, there's a but, I just don't know. Lindy, adding to that confidence a little bit, like, oh no, he's going to get there. When you don't have that fire burning. At least that's how it feels from the outside. I don't want to, assume that he doesn't. How hard he's working, will matter to that and what he's like in the room behind closed doors. But you just don't see hockey players very often that seem as, call it casual, call it calm, cool, and collected, which can be a good thing. Call it whatever you want. Has anyone ever seen emotion from Owen Power? On the ice, off the ice. Again, like it's not a bad thing. It's just how he is. It's how he's geared. I end up thinking he can still be a dominant player without that, without ever being mad throughout his entire career or whatever. I still think that he can, but it's just kind of unique. It's not a sport where you really see that a ton. And Lindy did say, like, he knows he's got to get in there. So, we'll see. If he gets stronger and he gets more comfortable in the league, maybe he will start doing that. The reason I wanted to get some Sabres in here real quick, there was an anonymous poll yesterday by 111 NHL players. The Athletic put this together. It was a lot of, who's on your no-trade list and who wouldn't you want to go to, who wouldn't you want to play for. A lot of, player control these days. How do you exec that? And the Sabres did not finish number one when it came to, hey, who's the top team on your no-trade list? Winnipeg did. Winnipeg, who's great. But it's just pretty clear guys do not want to play for the Winnipeg Jets. They don't want to live in Winnipeg. But the Sabres did finish second. And more than that, what's interesting to me is the quotes about the players, or about the team. Again, this is 111 players, anonymous poll, and what they kind of think of it here. No shock here, no surprise. We all know, right? They might be on every player's no-trade list. And if they're not, if a player doesn't have one, I can't imagine anybody's that excited to come here. Why would you be excited? The team stinks. The team has stunk for your whole playing career, back to juniors, for most of these guys. One player said, quote, "The way it's going there, Buffalo, it's just been kind of mucky there forever. And for me right now in my career, I don't really need that. It's not going to help me." That's a fair take, right? I don't know who that player is or what stage he is in his career. But if you get a guy that's like 27, 28, 29 years old and is looking to win or is looking for what's best for their career right now, what lands you on the Sabres? Another player said, quote, "High taxes. The organization hasn't been strong recently. They've made the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. In saying that, I have some friends there and they love playing there." All right, well, that's a bonus. Because that I would not assume. Not that Dahlin or Tage or Talk, any of these important players have given us any indication that they hate it here and they want out. You can wonder. You can wonder what constant losing does to a guy. You can wonder, I wonder what Dahlin thinks. He's in year 7. He's in year 7. If he's got any competitive bone in his body, he's got to want to win, and he's got to hate what's happening right now. Doesn't mean he wants out. So, all right, I got some friends there. They love playing. Another player, quote, "All they do is lose." That is where, looking back, I think there were a couple of mistakes that were made by this organization when they had a real opportunity 2 years ago, and it was not being approached as such. It also wasn't being talked about as such. There was an attitude amongst a lot of people, fans, some media, the team, more importantly, to me, embraced this attitude of, hey, look, we're pretty good. We're scoring a lot of goals. We're in the playoff race. We're alive in March. They took that as though that was some sort of security that it was going to happen, that this was the beginning of it happening like every single year. And they didn't approach it as this was an opportunity. Because more so what the attitude was that time was, hey, why do we even, what's the value of even getting in right now? To do what? Go in and get swept by the Bruins? How many times was that said? What, we're just going to get in and get swept? As if it didn't matter if they had gotten in because, hey, we're on to something here. And in doing that, they think they really missed an opportunity. By not trading for a better goaltender, by not making an extra move somewhere along the way in the season that could have pushed you over the hump one more point to just get in. And sure, even if you get bounced in round one, all these player quotes about, hey, all they do is lose. What's it been, 14 years since they made the playoffs? Guys that don't remember the Sabres in the postseason. A 22-year-old player in the NHL right now was 8 years old. You think he remembers, if he's not from here, you think he remembers a first-round series against the Philadelphia Flyers from 14 years ago? you might have done, I don't even think might, I think you definitely would have been having an easier time for the last 2 years wooing players to come here. Because, or maybe you would just be on less no-trade lists, whatever it is. You would have something to sell. You would have something to say, hey, we've done it. We know we can do it. We know this group can do it. We've seen it. And you might think, oh, well, it's the same players, and, if the results had gone the same. You don't know, though, how a guy across the league takes it. A guy in Vancouver would remember, oh, yeah, they made it 2 years ago. There must be something there to build on. They made it 2 years ago. I've actually seen it happen. I've seen Thompson in the playoffs. I've seen Dahlin in the playoffs. When you still don't have that monkey off your back, I think it is a lot harder. And I just think, looking back, they really didn't appreciate the opportunity that they had to escape where they are right now. A first-round playoff exit would have been valuable that year. Because right now, as you're seeing, like this poll, what do guys think of it here? Well, they're all saying, like, I've never seen them win. And if they had seen it one time, you'd probably be having an easier time finding players that are talented that might want to be here. The other thing that I did not expect from this anonymous survey was there was a vote amongst, hey, what coach would you not really want to play for? And as the article lays out, he was not number one or even number two, but Lindy Ruff got a handful of votes. And one anonymous player said, quote, I just think he's too old. I don't think he understands the game anymore. That's what I hear from the guys that play for him, that he just doesn't know what's going on most of the time. Now, that's a damning comment. That could mean one player, and it could mean anyone. It could be Beck Malenstein, some guy at the bottom of the roster. It doesn't have to be meaningful, but interesting at least, that there is an anonymous player in the league that said, I don't think he understands the game anymore. That's what I hear from the guys that play for him. I don't see that evidence on the ice, personally. Like, I think it's more about the group and the players, and you just saw him 2 years ago understand the game with the Devils, having one of their best regular seasons ever. So, I don't necessarily buy that, but it's interesting there's someone on the team that thinks it, at least according to that guy. 803-0550 is the phone number. We'll get back to some football. Myles Garrett, do you care? How much do you care? I know you care. How much do you care if Allen wins the MVP tonight? Because it was all anybody wanted to talk about during the regular season. And does anybody like ready or have the energy to do it today? Because today it's getting awarded. 9 o'clock. 803-0550 is the phone number. It's Jeremy and Joe here on WGR. Sneaky Joe DiBiase here for Douglas Development. Downtown Buffalo has been buzzing, and it's all thanks to Seneca One. I was touring Seneca One recently, and I still cannot believe how nice the building is compared to where it was just a few years ago when it was completely empty. You walk in there now, and you think you're in like an elite Manhattan hotel bar. You walk into the lobby and there's an old school van from like the 60s or 70s. It's bright blue across the way. They had to crane that in. There's a gondola from Venice on the wall. There are all these cool collector's items. There's the bar top from The Sopranos is in there. The brewery down at Other Half Brewing Company, beautiful, brand new, really good beer selection there as well. So just hanging out there. The golf simulator in front is a great option, but man, I couldn't imagine, working at that place too. You can get your car detailed while you're working. If you got a dog, there's dog salon, and they're building a dog park, and there's a bunch of amenities for them down at the bottom floor. Seneca One really is like a mini city. Coffee shop, food hall, they have everything you need right there. Home to businesses revitalizing downtown at Seneca One. There is still limited space available. If you're looking to do business at a higher level, you've got to be at Seneca One. Visit SenecaOneBuffalo.com. Be sure to schedule your tour today. Again, at SenecaOneBuffalo.com. Be caller 5 and 6 right now at 716-221-4WGR to win a pair of tickets to the Outlaw Music Fest featuring Bob Dylan, Turnpike Troubadours, Red Clay Strays, and Waylon Payne on Friday, August 8th at Darien Lake. Tickets go on sale this Friday, so tomorrow, at 10 a.m. at livenation.com. Josh, you just pointed out to me in the break that anonymous player poll we were just talking about for the NHL, that they all voted that Carolina has the worst facilities in the NHL.
Yeah, 105 responses, and 65% of them are Carolina.
All right.
20% Calgary, and then the rest is like 1% for like every other team.
Yep. This is where winning does everything for you. You want to tell me what it didn't matter the Sabres made the playoffs or not 2 years ago? They just got smoked in the first round anyway. Carolina, I know it's on another level. They don't get players that tell them no. Mikko Rantanen, who's one of the most consistent goal scorers in hockey, gets traded to Carolina a week ago. Was there a peep about him not wanting to go there? There he goes. They make big trades all the time. Do they have a problem with it? But they got the worst facilities in the league. I don't care. They just want to win. They just want to win. Most of them. They want money, too. I'm sure it helps if they have good facilities, but these dudes just want to win. That's it. And the Sabres 2 years ago didn't respect winning enough. And now they have to live with the consequences, which is nobody wants to come here. 803-0550 is the phone number. Back to football. I don't know if you want to rant. If you want to get me fired about Eli Manning again, it's very easy. 117 and 117. We're about to put a 500 quarterback in the Hall of Fame. Myles Garrett, Josh winning MVP, all ahead here on WGR. After all the MVP debate throughout the year, we find out tonight. 9 o'clock is the NFL Honors Awards, and we will know who is unveiled as the MVP, whether it is Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Saquon Barkley is also a finalist, but expected to be Allen or Jackson. That is tonight at 9. There are other bills up for awards, including Joe Brady for Assistant Coach of the Year and also Damar Hamlin for Comeback Player of the Year. That all gets unveiled tonight, as does the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. Eli Manning, the biggest name to watch for tonight if he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Elsewhere around the NFL, you got injury reports yesterday from both teams. The Chiefs aren't dealing with any injury, so it's all about the Eagles. And good news for them, Cam Jurgens, the center that had been dealing with a back injury, did practice on Wednesday, so he looks good to go for Sunday, as does defensive end Brandon Graham, who was limited at practice. He tore his triceps in Week 12, and the expectation is that he should be able to make it back for the Super Bowl. Sabres on the ice yesterday for practice. No Dylan Cousins. He's dealing with a lower body injury. No Matthias Samuelson either. Tage Thompson skated on his own. Lindy says he has a chance to play on Saturday, their final game before a 2-week break in Nashville. And the NBA trade deadline is today at 3 o'clock. We've already had a lot of action. Luka traded earlier in the week. Yesterday, the report was that the Suns were about to trade Kevin Durant back to the Golden State Warriors, but that Durant nixed the idea because he has no interest in reuniting with the Warriors. So the Warriors went out and traded for Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat for 3 players and a first-round pick. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
It's not a decision I take lightly. It took time and lots of conversation, but just looking at kind of the trajectory of the team, talking to some of the higher ups, and I have a lot of respect for them, but I just don't think we're aligned on where the team is going in the near future. I feel like the window for us as athletes is only so broad, and it only continues to close as years go by with anything be able to happen on that field from day to day. And I want to be able to go out there and compete at the highest levels, day in and day out, and playing for champions, like I said.
Myles Garrett. Deion Dawkins, by the way, is aggressive out there right now with, hey, let's go. Bring him over. Myles Garrett to the Bills. Let's go win a Super Bowl. I am fighting with people. I got to turn Twitter off. Eli Day. It's finally arrived. We knew it would happen. Maybe this won't be the only one. Because if he doesn't get in today, then we'll do this all again next year. And if he doesn't get in then, we'll do it the year after that. And eventually he will get in. Eventually Eli Manning will get in. I do not trust the voters to not put him in. But Pat Moran, who does the Talking Buffalo podcast, tweeted out, it really will just be the Hall of Very Good. He wasn't even very good. There's nothing that says he was very good. 9,000 attempts. He was very good on 2 of them. He closed his eyes on one of them, by the way. Well, I don't need to take the Tyree catch away from him. His eyes were closed, though. Watch the replay. The man closed his eyes and threw a prayer to the sky, and it was answered. All right, put him in. He got to 17 points. 803-0550 is the phone number. It is if Allen wins the MVP day. It's also, I really do wonder if Damar Hamlin wins Comeback Player of the Year tonight. I have not seen odds on that. Again, I don't think there really are a lot of odds out right now on these awards because they've already been voted on, and some people have already said who they voted for. I really do wonder about Hamlin, though, because I think it was gross and totally disgusting, even. I'll go as far as to say that the AP voters did not give him Comeback Player of the Year last year. Joe Flacco said as much. By the way, I heard recently one of the insider guys say that they thought if Flacco had won the award, he was going to give it to Hamlin. Like there was a thought, or maybe even an expectation behind closed doors that last year, if Flacco won the award, he was going to give it to Hamlin. And then he didn't do it. He kept it. So, my problem is not with Joe Flacco, though. My problem is with anyone that did not vote for Damar Hamlin to win Comeback Player of the Year. He did get the most first-place votes last year. But there were enough voters that felt he didn't meet the qualification for the award and therefore didn't put him on the ballot at all, like not even in the top 5. That's what swung it for Flacco. Hamlin had more first-place votes, but more people left Hamlin off the entire ballot than left Flacco off. Now, think about, though, I think that's gross, and I think it's one of the worst voted on awards in NFL history. This is why I feel like, though, maybe he's got a shot tonight. All those voters that didn't put him on their ballots last year, they didn't consider last year the comeback because he didn't really play. He played like 30 snaps on the year. Anyone that left him off would have said, oh, he didn't really play this year. So wouldn't they then consider this year to have been the comeback? No, this was the year. He started all year. He played. He had 3 interceptions. He played in the postseason. He was like second on the team in tackles. That's the comeback. So now I'm voting for it now because this was the comeback, not last year. So I don't know. We'll see if he actually wins it. 803-0550.
The year of makeup calls.
Sure.
The makeup awards. The makeup for Josh not getting it last year. The makeup for Damar not getting it last year.
Yep.
Will Josh attend tonight?
Is he on a golf course or anything right now?
I don't know.
Recently?
Will they give an award to someone that's not there?
Well, they voted on it, right? So they can't. They'll release the ballots. So I think by rule they would have to give it to him if he was voted number 1.
For sure. I'm not saying they wouldn't. Just if he wins, do they tell the person, hey, you won. You might want to be here for this.
I see. Okay, that I might buy. That I would buy. Yeah, that there would be someone somehow they're going to get the message to him like, hey, you should be there tonight.
Yeah.
To accept the award. Yeah. Okay. So does that mean though if we don't see Allen at the award show tonight, we're assuming he's not winning?
I wouldn't necessarily assume it. Maybe he's just got a prior engagement, or maybe he's sad, doesn't want to be there, doesn't really feel like being around the football world. Although he was pretty soon after 13 seconds, he was sitting. That was in an NFL award show where they made that joke, right?
I think so. Yeah, he was there. Yeah, and he did like Radio Row stuff throughout that week, didn't he?
Yep.
Like he was doing interviews. I don't think he did last year, if I remember right. Did you watch that one? Do you usually watch these?
No.
I normally don't. I might tonight, though. Right? MVP's close enough, or at least in doubt enough. And I guess the other ones the Bills are up for, like the Hamlin one. But more so about MVP. I guess I would watch it to see the unveiling. But what are the odds I'm even going to get that far before knowing? Like, are we going to see a leak? Or I don't even know the answer to these questions because I know the draft. The draft is something where I'll turn Twitter off because I know they're going to leak it, and that's going to ruin the watching experience. Does that happen for the awards? Like, does Rappaport tweet out or Schefter or somebody tweet out 9 minutes before they actually give the award out? Who did it on Twitter? Who got it?
I don't know. That tells you how closely I've followed this award ceremony in the past, right? It might come out early. I have no idea.
Maybe I'll watch tonight. Snoop Dogg's the host.
Yeah.
Can't be that bad.
Saquon Barkley likely the offensive player of the year?
Yes, he's the heavy favorite. He was, I saw this morning, voted by Pro Football Network. They had some poll amongst everyone that works there. He was the 6th best free agent signing in NFL history.
Okay.
By their math.
On that point,
all quarterbacks ahead of him, by the way.
On that point about how good Barkley's been. He's been amazing for the Eagles. But, of course, he goes into an ecosystem that is beautiful for him, and there's some numbers to back that up. So, saw this in a full-on breakdown from Sheil Kapadia. Bunch of angles and stats about this matchup, Chiefs and Eagles, and how big of a factor can Saquon Barkley be. Well, in their previous 2 matchups, so the Eagles played the Chiefs last year in the regular season, and they played them in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same head coach. That's that's Spagnuolo, that's Nick Sirianni, that's Jalen Hurts, that's the Eagles as a very good team. I mean, they were in the Super Bowl, and then last year they didn't go to the Super Bowl. They kind of, crashed to earth later in the season. But the point is, you kind of have the same versions of these teams. Well, without Saquon Barkley, they had Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and DeAndre Swift as their running backs. And in the last 2 meetings, Chiefs and Eagles, Joe, the Eagles rushed against the Chiefs in the 90th percentile last year.
Yeah.
And in the 88th percentile in the Super Bowl. So if Saquon goes nuts in this game, or the Eagles are able to run all over the Chiefs in this game, I would say those numbers right there tell you 2 things. One, you shouldn't be surprised because they've done it before without Saquon Barkley. One, you shouldn't be surprised if it happens. And 2, you shouldn't really buy the idea that it's just Saquon Barkley that did it. Because they have run all over the Chiefs in both of their previous meetings. It's almost enough to make me think that they can win this game. Of course, I never give thought to anybody ever beating the Chiefs, of course. It's almost impossible to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they could.
Yeah.
Are they going to do it with the ground game? And then are the Bills going to think we should have run it more? And everybody thinks they should run it more against the Chiefs, I think, is how you get to it. That's how Baltimore, their loss last year in the AFC Championship game, their lesson was we should have run it more. The Bills was their best drive of the game, the drive that they ran it 12 times. I don't know. We wonder why James Cook didn't get the ball more, and here's a Philadelphia team that when they run it against the Chiefs, they run it well.
Yeah.
So you could see a big Barkley day.
Can I get someone, though, to make the argument that, they might want to run it more, but they're not doing anything in this offseason that helps that along, right?
The Bills?
Yeah, their personnel is set on that front. Maybe they choose to do things differently in a matchup, but they have their running back and they have their offensive line. So, that's not changing. Could I get someone in that Bills coaching room to get an educated, opinion through to McDermott and Bean, or maybe them just to figure out on their own that, hey, you know what helps their run game, guys? Look how much attention they're paying to A.J. Brown over here.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Look how much attention they're paying to, look how much easier it is for Barkley. Look how many light boxes he goes against.
Let's see how many light boxes he gets.
Yeah, I don't actually know that number. But look at the attention that's drawn by the fact that they have one of the best receivers in football and then another great receiver. Look how much easier it is for them.
Mm-hmm.
That would be one thing where I don't. That's the only thing personnel-wise the Bills could do. Again, coaching-wise, maybe they would want to, run it more against the Chiefs next time. But I think it would help if you had the top receiver.
Barkley's light box percentage is kind of middle of the road.
Okay, well, for how good he is,
yep,
that's kind of crazy, right?
Middle of the road.
Derrick Henry is arguably the best running back in football. He has been all year, and nobody decided stack the box in comparison to the top guys in the league. Why? Because you can't leave A.J. Brown on an island.
Yeah, and that's what the Bills used to live that life where they Devin Singletary's life here was running against light boxes all the time out of 11 personnel.
Yeah. Do you have his light box percentage there?
20%. It's 20%.
20%. You want to know what James Cook's was? 51.2. 41st in the league is what I got for James Cook.
Okay, well, you're doing a different box. I'm doing 8 or more defenders. I'm at Next Gen Stats for 8 or more defenders.
Okay. Oh, okay, I see. I was doing how much he sees a light box, which is 6 or fewer.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. Percentage of carries with 8 or greater defenders in the box, James Cook 11.5%.
Yeah, that's a pretty low percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Breece Hall's 11. But anyway, bring this game. Mercifully end this season. Is that right or wrong to say? Just mercifully end it.
I do think I've discovered I am the only one that's thinking about the Bills and a star running back this offseason.
Yeah,
I am thinking.
I think they have a star running. I think they have a star running back.
I think they have one too. I feel though a different style of one to go with James Cook is something that I'm I really wonder if they want to do what the Lions have. I know what I've asked Chris Trapasso, I've asked Joe Marie. No one else really shares this opinion with me, but Ashton Jeanty at the end of the first round or whatever, they clearly wanted to run the ball, and they have one guy who is great at it, and they had another couple of guys that are pretty good at it. But we just saw this common thread of if you already have a great offensive line and then you plug in star running back to that already great offensive line, that running back had insane numbers. And
there's one other thing besides just the offensive line, a quarterback that runs that mesh point, read option kind of stuff. Like in both cases, you have quarterbacks you have to worry about. I mean, Lamar, of course, and Hurts is not quite that level, but he's definitely good at it.
Right.
So that's another part of it.
And it would depend, too, on if they want to pay Cook. Like, I kind of guess they would right now.
I think they would.
Would you be... maybe you would. Would you be stunned if they didn't? If they said, we don't want to give him $12 million a year. I think I would be stunned. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, one thing they have to decide, again, like getting to James Cook and his career arc, McDermott raved about him, how laser-focused he was in this AFC Championship, and it feels like they love James Cook right now. Early on, there was stuff about practice habits and being prepared, and the fact that he's not the best pass blocker. I wonder what they would think about that. That big money, he's explosive. He was a really important part of their team. I would say I'd be stunned if they don't bring him back. They have to decide, like every team does, was the guy just giving us his best because he's going to be due for a contract and then, take his foot off the gas? I don't know anything about James Cook to say that would be true, but there's no doubt that teams have those conversations every time.
Yeah.
So I think I'd be I think I'd be stunned if they didn't bring him back. 803-0550 our phone number, and 1-888-550-2550. Rob in Toronto is up. Hey, Rob.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good.
So just a few things here. So on Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame, as a Bills fan, 1,000% he should be in there for crushing the Patriots' spirits for 2 Super Bowls. I don't even care about regular season numbers. Don't care about that as a Bills fan. He might even have a plaque on the Wall of Fame in Bills history. So I'm fine with that. With Myles Garrett and what potentially you'd give up in terms of draft capital, I'd ask you, would you give up Kyrie Elam, Kincaid, and a future first for Myles Garrett, an absolute game wrecker? There's 3 first-round picks. So I have no problem with anything going after him, and also clearing up some capital to be able to pay him. Lastly, and I'll leave you with this, as a Manchester United fan, Jeremy, thank you for Arsenal absolutely dismantling City on the weekend. It was terrific, and we're going to Europe, my wife and I, for our 10th anniversary, and I wanted to go to Old Trafford, but they're playing international World Cup qualifiers, so I'm actually going to Wembley for a World Cup qualifier, so it'll be interesting to see the stadium, given that it's kind of tailored towards what the Bills are trying to build. So,
Wembley's not. If you're going to Tottenham, that's the one the Bills stadium is modeled after. Although, not like all soccer stadiums are the same, but the fully enclosed nature of it. Wembley is where the Bills played the Jaguars.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If you're going to Wembley, that's the NFL plays there, but the Bills' new stadium is more after the new Tottenham stadium.
Well, anyways, I can't wait to go there. And I guess maybe last I'll leave you with this as one leg of the trip. I'm going to be playing the Old Course, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on proper green jacket attire.
There you go. Playing the Old Course.
Thank you to Arsenal.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you for shouting on Arsenal's 5-1 dismantling of Manchester City. Manchester City, if anybody out there follows soccer, what their year has been. And if you don't follow soccer, here's the best comparison I could think of. It would be like if the Chiefs next year went 5-11 and just lost all the time and got blown out with most of the same pieces. Most of them. It's astounding how far City has fallen.
Yeah,
they're still good. They're still whatever. What are they? What place are they in? I don't know. It really is stunning though to see them. They're in 5th.
They're in 5th. Okay, right.
They're in 5th. They're
that's
15 points off the lead in the table. It's incredible how far they have fallen. Couldn't have lost just one more game last year, huh? Good times. Good times. Thanks, City.
Or 3 years ago, or
you're right.
5 years ago.
They've won $1 million in a row, and now they're just, again, by their standards, terrible, and they get blown out.
Liverpool had a season where they lost 1 game and didn't win the title because of City. Yeah,
the Old Course. I played the Old Course yesterday. The back nine.
Kinda.
I
played what's the Ocean Course in South Carolina?
Kiowa.
Yes.
Kiowa Island.
Kiowa Island. A lot of sand.
Yeah, I guess
A lot of beaches.
To the thing about 3 first-round picks for Garrett, I mean, here's a fun question. What has more value? The Bills' next 3 first-round picks or their current first, Kincaid and Elam? What has more value? Basically, it's what has more value? Their last 2 firsts or their next 2 firsts?
Their next 2.
Their next 2.
Yeah.
Kincaid and Elam or the 2026 and 2027 firsts? What has more value?
Definitely. I think.
I mean, Elam is no value.
Nothing. He's nothing.
No
he's a
value.
7th, right? Is he the equivalent to
a
a conditional 7th round pick right now?
Yep.
So
it doesn't mean
nothing.
he can't turn his career around, and he plays in the NFL. But no, there's almost no value there in a trade. And Kincaid, well, how much is he worth to the Browns? Would any team out there right now trade a first-round pick for Dalton Kincaid?
No.
Just like on value. Just is he worth that right now?
I would say no.
Maybe.
You've lost 2 years of contract control, and you're not even sure if the guy's good.
Yep.
That's not a first-round pick.
I think I know that he's good. Just, he's not quite...
What is he good at?
He's not been a difference maker for the Bills.
What is he good at? What is Dalton Kincaid good at? For him to be good, doesn't he have to be good at something? What is he good at?
He's good at. I mean, he usually is good at catching the football, and he's really smooth coming in and out of his breaks, and he makes catches and turns upfield very smoothly. Like, he's a good player. I'm not going to act like he's not Kyer Elam of tight ends. I mean, he can play. He's a good player.
I am not convinced he's a good player. Like, I don't see speed. I don't see yards after catch ability. I saw 8 drops this year, which has nothing to do with his knee. I don't see a mismatch against anybody on the defensive side of the football, whether it's a nickel corner or a linebacker. Like, I'm not saying he can't become a good player. I've seen nothing in 2 years that tells me he's a good tight end.
He was graded by Pro Football Focus as the 15th best tight end in football.
This year?
Yep.
All right. Middle of the road starting tight end. I guess if he was the 15th best tight end, I'd have to give him he's good.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad player, but I certainly think if a team gave up a first round pick for him, they would be, but they should not do that. So to make your point about to make your point, I would trade their past first round picks is more of a statement about what they've done in the past. I mean, let's use another team and their first round picks. Would you trade the Eagles? Who would they take? Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
And
Cooper DeJean, right? Or was that a second-round pick?
He might have been a second-round pick.
He's really good, though.
I get it. I think the Bills should, of course, make a move for Myles Garrett if they can make it work, if the price isn't too much. I can't think of a draft package that would really scare me off of it, and I can't think of a player I'd really be too worried about losing because they're not going to trade Allen, and they're not going to trade Dawkins, and they're not going to trade Spencer Brown. And past that, it's like Benford. Like,
that's the guy I was about to mention, because really, we kind of do this in our own heads, right? Like, just Elam was a bust. Pretend that they picked Benford in the first round and you'd be happy. Okay, so the Browns that say the same thing. Oh, we're just going to pretend we want your last 2 first-round picks. We're going to pretend Benford was your first-round pick. Send him over. We're about to trade Denzel Ward too. We want a young corner that we have cost control for another year on. Send him over. We want Christian Benford. You want to get this deal done, and you want to outbid the Commanders. You've got the pick capital. Now it's coming down to the player. We want Christian Benford. What are you doing? Maybe they force you into a decision like that. It's gonna hurt. Right? It's going to hurt. Like, we can throw Elam into this deal all we want, or even Rousseau, who's $20 to $25 million, but I wouldn't just assume the Browns want Greg Rousseau. Like, if they want a player, they would probably be asking for one that you're going to really not want to lose. And then you have to really decide how badly you want Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
What if they want Keon Coleman?
Fine.
Good? You're good on that?
Yeah, just get back on the receiver train. For Garrett, like what? Coleman in a first?
Well, you have to think of it from the Browns' perspective.
Like,
if I'm the Cleveland
talent.
Browns, I want young talent.
They
and
did just extend Jerry Jeudy, so they've got him, right?
Right. But ideally, too, because of my cap situation, I'd like to have a guy I don't have to invest a ton of money in yet. At least one more year. Give me one more. Because Rousseau, it's now. It's 5th-year option, right? Benford is still in his rookie deal. I don't think that's near the same. So if I'm Cleveland, what do I want from the Buffalo Bills? I'm doing the show in Cleveland. The Bills are in it. They're the favorites. What's the player I want? I don't think I'm getting to Greg Rousseau. I think I'm getting to Benford. I think I'm getting to, I'm talking about Coleman maybe a little bit. Maybe I don't think I'm talking about Kincaid because I have a tight end. Who's the cheap labor on the Bills? Terrell Bernard?
Yeah. But even these guys, like you're talking now, they're close to getting paid. They're only cheap for so long.
Right. The Bills don't have a guy that's like still a few years off. That's
where the draft picks are.
Who's their best player that is a few years off from getting paid that you just know is great or know is even good? Does that guy exist?
Yeah.
He might not. And that might inhibit them. Like if the Commanders have a guy like that, I don't have a name ready to go off the top of my head, but if the Commanders have a guy like that, then you might have a tough time, matching it. Khalil Shakir, right? Like that's the name. He's a few years off from getting paid, and he's really good. And I bet, is going to get most Bills fans to say absolutely not.
Yeah. I wouldn't definitely not get me to say absolutely not. I just a player that's good for you is not necessarily of value to them. Like a lot of teams, I feel like have their Khalil Shakir. Don't the Browns have a guy that they're perfectly fine with like that? And they're drafting second overall. Like they want Rousseau. They're about to draft Abdul Carter number 2, are they not?
Probably.
Anyway,
but I'm just saying if I'm them, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
Right. 8030550. It'll be. I guess the next step is starting to get a leak out there of like what the price might be. Right. With Ayuk, we heard a report that it was Christian Kirk and a first in Jacksonville. And then the Steelers were going to have to pay a first and something else, like Freiermuth.
Yeah.
There were rumblings about what the team would want, and we have not yet gotten to that stage. I think Cleveland's probably going to maintain a pretty hard line. I'm not even sure we're going to trade him to try and get the offers up as high as they can get.
Yeah. The Niners wanted Cooper in a first, didn't they? From the Browns?
That might be right.
That was out there. I think it was Cooper and a first they wanted from Cleveland.
8030550, our phone number, and 1-888-550-2550. If you're on hold, we'll get to your phone calls. Jeremy and Joe, as we get closer to the Super Bowl, track the miles, Garrett, reports, rumors, all that good stuff. Give us a ring, 8030550 on WGR.
It's something that has to come from within, that when you become a great team, it comes out of you. It comes out of players that, if you look at early in the year when Zucker, who is not a fighter, dropped his gloves and went at somebody, it comes out of you. It is about the group coming together. It has to come out of you. Some of those guys that play the role sometimes is only a role because they're carried along because of their teammates.
Lindy Ruff, from our conversation yesterday on the Tage Thompson hit that was not responded to, Elliot Friedman has a note in his 32 thoughts. He writes, the Sabres have won 4 in a row, but we will see if there's any long-term fallout from Sunday when Stefan Neuwiesen's hit on Tage Thompson went unaddressed. One player on another team said he heard from a friend on Buffalo there was talk of the leadership group and or alternate captaincies being switched over what didn't happen.
Interesting.
That's Samuelson and Cousins.
Yeah.
Losing letters.
I mean, that would be something, wouldn't it?
Would they do it before their next game, or would they wait for the 2-week break and do it then?
I don't think we would. Would we even know? We'd have to pick up on it. We'd have to notice it. Like, they wouldn't announce that.
No, the letters would be just on different jerseys.
But they already rotate, which is what I mean.
Fair. So they would stop rotating?
Yeah, they would. Right. Like, it would just be, instead of, because there are games where Cousins doesn't wear an A.
Right.
And there are games where he does. And if it becomes evident, we're like, hey, it's been 30 games since he had an A on his jersey, like, I think we'll know at that point.
Yeah. Really doesn't strike me as something that's all that drastic if you're rotating your alternate captains and say, like, you're not in the rotation anymore, man. Like, okay.
Right.
It's a punishment.
I mean, they were very public about it when they stripped Jack of the Sea.
Yes, of course.
They announced it.
Which was another shining moment in what not to do.
Yeah. Tough one. Other players saw that.
The entire league saw it. I mean, what not to do. But anyway, 803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. Sabres and Predators, and then the 2-week break for the Four Nations.
I am so excited for the Four Nations. Oh, here we go. Here's someone that says, Marcus Spears, Bills should not sell the farm to get Myles Garrett. We have a guy. Someone is saying don't do it.
What's the farm? Does he know?
The farm. I mean, the farm just means 2 firsts and something else, isn't it? Isn't that all the farm would be?
I don't know.
Would that constitute the farm? Them not picking in the first round until 2027?
If they were to trade their first-round pick, the cap is something to consider here, so try and remove that. If I were to tell you they're not going to pick in the first round for the next 5 years because every single year Brandon Beane's going to use a first-round pick on a player he knows is good, would you sign up for that? Like it's an NHL model. Right. The Penguins went like a decade without picking in the first round, and the Rams went a decade without picking, or maybe 7 years, 5 years. Just, you know what? We're not going to use our first on draft picks anymore. We're just going to go get players that we know are good. How many games do they win every year? 13? I mean, Josh Allen. Didn't Josh Allen just prove he is stability? That's what he is. He gives you license not only to go for it, but even if you whiff on first-round picks, take a guy that can't play in Kyer Elam. Take a guy that you can't quite find a way to get him as involved as you want. That's Dalton Kincaid. Doesn't matter. Josh Allen's going to lead you to 13 wins.
Right. You can kind of do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want. You can swing big. You can not swing big. If the Bills sell the farm for Garrett, I bet they win 13 games. If they don't sell the farm for Garrett, I bet they win 13
Which
games.
is where doesn't it become even more important that any moves you make are geared towards beating like 2 teams?
Yes.
Everything should be about Chiefs number 1. You can include the Ravens if you want, but like, any player they bring in, any player they draft, you're going to win 12, 13 games anyway. So answer the question: does this guy help us beat the Chiefs?
Right. That should be the question.
How much does this person help us beat the Chiefs? That is like everything should be geared towards that because they have a baseline. We know they can only be so bad. I think, at least until someone else in the division maybe picks up the pace a little bit. But I don't see that happening yet. Unless Garrett went to like the Dolphins, maybe.
Yeah, which I guess could happen. 803-0550 to join us. Is Rich in North Tonawanda still there?
Yes.
Hey, Rich.
How you doing? Just a players talk. How fair is the ownership?
I
think we lost you, Rich. He wanted to talk about the players poll that came out yesterday, the anonymous players poll that had quotes about the Sabres just like they've never won. Like I don't need that in my career right now. And then there was the one comment about Lindy, which was, let me find it here real quick. There was an anonymous player. One of the poll questions was like coaches you wouldn't want to play for. Mm-hmm. And Lindy got a handful of votes. And the quote from one player that did vote for Lindy was that he knows someone on the team now that doesn't think he doesn't know the game anymore, doesn't understand today's game, doesn't really understand what's happening out there. Was basically the one. That's only from one player saying he knows one player on the Sabres that said that.
That feels that way?
So, yeah.
All right.
It's all terrible.
How about they've won 4 in a row?
They have won 4 in a row. Here it is. The player said, anonymous player, I just think he's too old. I don't think he understands the game anymore. That's what I hear from the guys that play for him, that he just doesn't know what's going on most of the time. That's an anonymous NHL player on Lindy.
All right.
I mean, I don't want to say the guy's lying, but...
Well, that's what he hears. I mean, I trust that that's what he hears.
Yeah. Yeah, they are on a 4-game win streak.
4-game win streak.
We can say they're on a 5-game win streak for 2 weeks if they win on Saturday.
That's right. Where's Ovechkin stand? 18 goals off now?
17.
17.
He beat the buzzer the other night. He scored an empty netter with 0.1 seconds left on the clock.
That's right. I saw that.
So he is 17 away. He's having the season he's having is incredible too. Like he was starting, or maybe it was 1 year. 1 year last year he scores 31. Right, it's his lowest total in a full season of his career. So you look at that and might think, okay, here we go, 38 years old, starting to slow down a little bit. Like, all right, maybe the record takes a little bit longer than you would have thought. And he, with an injury this year, in 37 games, has 25 goals. Like, he's on an 82-game pace of 50-plus. At 39.
That's nuts.
And there are a couple empty netters. They're not like all empty netters, though. And maybe the most stunning thing, we had this conversation about, like, what should Washington want? They want the record, right? Like, they're bringing in all these veterans, seemingly to, like, just be as competitive as possible while Ovechkin is here to get him the record, right? Like, no one ever thought they were going to be good. And yet, they did all that. They're really old. We thought they were over the hill, and they're number 1 in their division. They're, like, one of the best teams in hockey this year.
Yep.
That is the stunning part about it, is not only that Ovechkin's getting there, and he's been a huge part of it, like him being on a 50-plus goal pace obviously is a huge reason why, but I did not see that coming. Like, it's been a weird year in the standings. It'd be fun if the Sabres could be involved in it, but you've had Boston take a step back, you've had Tampa take a step back, Washington just stunningly is taking a step up, Ottawa and Detroit finally have got it together after 7 years, like, but it's still the same here, I guess.
803-0550, our phone number. Sorry, Rich, that the phone broke up on that, but hopefully we got the gist of it. That player poll, it's the NHL player poll about where you wouldn't go and get traded and a bunch of stuff. I did see all of that and thought there was a silver lining in there for Buffalo, even though they were number 2 on where you wouldn't want to get traded.
Yeah.
It's worth pointing out.
Behind Winnipeg.
Right. And where's Winnipeg in the standings?
I'm sure they got to be still near the top, right? They were on a historic start.
So the good news is there are 2 teams that were listed as I wouldn't want to go play there. One of them has the most points in the league, Winnipeg, and the other is the Sabres, who are on a 14-year playoff drought. Like, shouldn't that tell you something? That it's probably not as hard to turn around the idea of guys want to play here. It just is going to take you actually being good. It seems like Winnipeg is never going to overcome that.
Right.
They have 79 points and no one wants to play there.
Well, how different do we think that is here? Like if I don't know. I'm 11 years old.
All I'm saying is if the Sabres were great, if the Sabres had 79 points in 55 games, made the playoffs, made a conference final, I mean, they would still get mentioned as a place you wouldn't want to go. There are guys that don't want to come here. That's fine. But the fact that Winnipeg is by a mile number 1, and they are good. In that article about where you wouldn't want to play, one of the players quoted says, I know a bunch of guys that play there, and they love it. Like, there's still positivity to a small point. There's something. And you just got to get it right. You just can't let it go as poorly as it's gone for as long as it's gone this poorly. That's where the palm trees comment. That's tough. That almost it's trying to shed accountability for. I don't know if it's the palm trees. It's maybe the palm trees, maybe the Texas. That article with those players where you don't want to go. All the Canadian teams were listed because of Texas. Some players say anywhere but Canada. There was a big long article in The Athletic about that this year. Anywhere but Canada. So there's no palm trees in Canada, and they're getting good teams.
Mm-hmm.
It was really what made that comment the toughest to take. Is like you're trying to skirt accountability on a level here, because other teams have similar challenges, and no one is similarly challenged as you. So anyway.
I just jumped in. I had a chance here to finally get on camera, and I had to do it because Jeremy is not in his seat.
Nice.
I have not been on the camera on the YouTube side here.
Can we go?
But I don't know if we can do that.
A 3-box?
I talked to Owen. I don't think we can do that. But there, I'm okay. There I am. I had to decide: do I wear the beanie or do I just take it off and go bald? Right. That's right.
I like the beanie.
Oh, you like the beanie? I could do that too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I had to say hi to everybody. I'm reading the chat box. People are saying Joe's out of control for his Eli Manning stuff.
No,
I'm
so ready to go today. Come on.
My guess is the thing about the chat guys.
Who wants it?
Sometimes it's behind. Sometimes people are behind. I think the chat got mad at Joe for saying he wasn't sure if Dalton Kincaid's a good player.
I'm not sure. I mean, he might be.
Listen,
I'm just saying. I think that's what got the chat going. Was that?
Okay.
Tell me what he's good at.
Okay, I will just say this. We had this is really great, Joe. We had this exact same debate in the Bills media room last week.
Okay.
Like a week ago today. And there were media members going, well, I really haven't seen him do anything. I said, no, he hasn't made splash plays. But to me, how can you ignore the fact he literally had the fourth at the time, most catches ever for a rookie tight end in this league's history?
He did.
So is he not a good player?
But what that should mean is that because he didn't have a lot of yards on those. So It's okay, short passing, and in the most high percentage plays, he's going to give me something. Where was that this year?
He was missing the splash plays, impact, and what I've said is I think they drafted him to be part of a 12 personnel, and they didn't really get to that because of Dorsey, and then he becomes an everybody eats. Well, guess what? You don't draft a first-round tight end that has that skill set and then say, oh, by the way, you're just going to be a member at the dinner table here instead of someone we're going to try and feed a little bit more. By the way, I talked a lot about Eli yesterday. I agree with you except for to a point. I think he probably eventually goes in. I have no problem with him going in. Should not go in the first ballot. Not at all.
Yeah. I think first ballot is crazy. For me, crazy. Yeah. Like, I don't. It just there's so many arguments that you can go at. Like, I don't even think you need the regular season stats. I don't think you need it. I just again, like, I'm going to be in Twitter fights all day, aren't I? Someone pointed out like how he's one of the most amazing quarterbacks in the playoffs of all time. Do we know he in 12 playoff games scored 24 or more points one time?
Eli, yeah.
Like, I don't want to take all credit away from him just because his defense was great. His bar to clear to win 2 Super Bowls was 15 and 18 points. And he won all these playoff games. One of them was because he went off. The rest were, he did pretty good, and the defense was great. So that's fine, but I don't think that should put him in the Hall of Fame. And it certainly shouldn't be first ballot.
0550 Extra Point Show coming up. We got to get a break in, get to Extendo Sports before passing things off to Sal. Jeremy and Joe on WGR. All right, we went late into Extendo Sports, so we're going to hand it off to the Extra Point Show. Sal's coming up. Sal, what you got going on? Still there? He's out of the studio.
He's here.
He's here.
Oh.
Here, he's putting the headphone back on.
Yeah, I'm here too.
What's going on today on Extra Point Show?
Sorry, to get my headphones back on. We are going to talk about this MVP stuff, and I'm going to run through all of the award finalists and who's going to possibly win or not, and there you go. See, now I'm conscious of how I look on this camera thing. We're used to doing radio. I've done TV on radio or video. I do it all the time with the podcast, but this is totally new in this environment. Anyway, John Harris is going to join me. You guys know John. He is my buddy, the sideline reporter for the Texans. He's super into the draft, does a lot of work on the draft. We're going to just also find out what happened with Bobby Slowick. Like, suddenly just, bam, he's out the door and, hire a new guy there and catch up with my buddy John.
All right, very good. the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show coming up. We're back tomorrow morning here on WGR.